on sitting in my chair late at night, watching crime unfold under the pale moonlight. From the darkest corner, stories unfold. True crime jewels, she's brash and she is bold. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep into the mysteries that never sleep. From missing kids in Tennessee to angry husbands named Barry. True crime's calling, and we're taking the time. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. This True Crime Jewels got what you need. From missing people to twisted minds, we're unraveling secrets old Barry tried to hide. Every clue, every twist and turn. In the world of crime, there's always more to learn. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep into the mysteries that never sleep. From Christopher's anger to Stephen Fisher's lies. The truth is calling, and justice won't be denied. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. True Crime Jewels on the YouTube streets. Lights are low, suspense is high. We're chasing truth, we spot every lie. Step into the darkness, hold on tight. Two flashlights out there in the dead of night. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep. Barry Morphew's case is hot. A boy in Tennessee won't be left behind. From the coldest cases to the ones that shine, true crime's calling, and we're taking the time. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. This True Crime Jewels got what you need. We're always watching Barry and waiting for the truth. In the world of crime, we discuss the proof. So hit that play and join the True Crime journey with Jewels of Thought and her gemstone family.
All right, folks. How are you? I hope you're doing well. I do want to ask the mods. There's several mods here, I think. If you'll pay attention to the banner that's scrolling across the bottom, I mean, not a timeout, blocked, banned, out, finished, no discussion, no comment about it, nothing. It's over. Okay. Please do that for me. Okay. Now then, so I have not, the interview with Lori Vallow Daybell happened, I believe it's like March the 18th, perhaps. And so I never did get a chance to go back and really go through the whole thing. I purchased the was it Peacock, so that I could have the whole interview and not just the clips. And then boom, we never talked about it. So we need to talk about it in depth. And so this is a good point to do that video, because we're gearing up for the trial, right? And this is the trial, Lori Vallow in Arizona. And this is the charges of murder, a conspiracy to commit murder against Charles Vallow, a good and decent man who was pleading and begging for help from anyone and everyone. He just kept saying, I love her. She's been a good mother to my kids, but things have really gone off the rails. She thinks that she's God in some way, She thinks I'm some metaphysical creature and we need some help, right? So he's begging and pleading. And unfortunately, he just didn't nobody wanted to believe him, and unfortunately, part of that is that, if you look normal, if you are one of the pretty people or attractive people, then people have a way of just sort of projecting onto you that you're a regular person. And, it doesn't take long. All you've got to do is sit and watch Lori in the courtroom representing herself. It does not take long to figure out. She may be beautiful externally on the outside, but my goodness, there's a whole lot of nonsense going on that underneath that blonde head, right? So she sees the world quite differently than most of us do. She seems to either be she's having some delusional thought, or she's just malingering. It's all been a ruse. As a narcissist, she wanted power. She wanted to be important. She wanted to be in a position of honor. And she watched Chad, and she saw the following that Chad had from his books. And she thought, if I play along with this, I could end up being, his wife, which is going to put me in that position of honor and leadership that I've always craved. I tend more toward that. I tend more toward believing that she's crazy like a fox. She's not mentally ill. She's just severe personality disorder, and she's a manipulator of the highest order. So if either of the two might actually have some true organic disruption, true mental illness, maybe Chad a little bit, right? But I've said before, they were just the perfect storm, and one kind of crazy met up with the other kind of crazy, and together they created, a dumpster fire, so to speak. So, yeah, welcome, Outer Banks. Good to have you. And it does, to be fair, it does describe, it does depend on how you want to define the word crazy, right? So medically, you would think of insanity along some within some very specific parameters, but certainly people can have a severe personality disorder and really struggle to relate in normal circumstances with others. So yeah, it was just that terrible combination, and we know this is true. We know through research and testing, we know that if you have someone who has dependent personality disorder, which would be the Chadster, I'm saying his behavior would be consistent with that type of diagnosis. I'm not saying he has that. I don't know. I've never even spoken to him. I don't know what's wrong with him. But some of the stuff he does kind of impress like one that might have dependent personality disorder. And then combined with someone that might have narcissistic personality disorder, among other things. And those two together, it's just gasoline poured on a flame. That particular combination of personality disorders, you end up on the 6 o'clock news. I mean, these are the ones that remarkable, unbelievable nightmares unfold like this. Here's another example, just by example, not by diagnoses, right? I'm not talking about a formal diagnosis. What of Christopher Watts and Shanann Ruchek? There's another combination of potentially Chris Watts as dependent personality disorder with someone who is very powerful and possibly some narcissism there, and it really went off the rails. So not gasoline on a fire. Think of demon core seclusion. Yes, think about basically opening the gates to hell. Okay, that's what happens when you put together dependent personality disorder with narcissistic personality disorder. You got the potential for a real real hellfire. So thank you for that. Seclusion works. You're very right. Okay. So, yesterday she submitted 3 more documents for request to the court. One of them was, okay, let me say this too. If you would like a real breakdown of these, then obviously there's Lawyer Without a Cause, The Real Emily Baker, and Nate Eaton is going to be covering this case he's trying to make sure that he can cover this case in depth as he did the Idaho cases. And so he's doing a great job of breaking it all down. He's got a new studio with which to cover this night after night. And so I would invite you to, if we could get his link to his channel, that would be great for people. But I don't want to sit and read the documents to you. I just kind of want to make a comment and then we'll get to the interview. Because I do try to talk about the psychological points of interest in these cases and these people. And so, the attorneys or the reporters can do the small details. Okay. We'll have a symbiotic relationship. So, her second address, it relates to Nate Eaton. Okay. And she's got him on her witness list, right? And the witness list, well, let me see if I can get this pulled up because it'd make it easier if you could hear what she said. And I didn't think I was going to do this, but let me real quick see if I can get this pulled up. Nate Eaton, Lori. Okay, here we go. Yes, this is it. Okay. So this will help too because I'll have the link. Okay, so it's East Idaho News. Copy. Where did y'all go? I disappeared you. Okay, so here's the link to the video that I'm going to show. But I'm just going to show just a little bit of it so you'll understand what I'm saying in terms of like the psychological motivations of Lori. So let me take this down. Put Nate up. All right, here we go. Okay, so he's gearing all up. He's got a nice, pretty updated studio to do this new trial, and then the one that is coming with Brandon Boudreaux in a couple of months. And so he's very excited. Let me see if I can show you the beginning. Like his studio looks so great. Look at how fancy he got. Good job, Nate Eaton. You're looking good. Look at the hard work they did. Yes, Lori has submitted yet another motion as to why they should dismiss the case. And that's what he has in his hand. That's what we're going to listen to in just a minute. But I was going to show you. Okay. So here's the new motion.
So she mentions 2 cases. For those of you not familiar, the case we're talking about that goes to trial next week is the death of Charles Vallow. She's facing a conspiracy to commit murder charge there. A separate case is the attempted shooting of Brandon Boudreaux.
And she is look at his studio. Isn't that nice? You guys need to go watch the whole video and then be sure to leave a comment about how snazzy everything looks, and that, he looks like a true crime reporter. All right. So I think he did a good job. But so I think, so she's got this case that starts next week, April the 1st. The general public, the reporters, will not be allowed into the courtroom while they are choosing the jury because they have limited space. They believe that opening statements will begin on April 7th. All right. So that's the timeline as we stand. And there has been no approach for a plea deal at all. And there is nothing to suggest that the prosecution would even be willing to do that. It's over. It's going to trial. This is it. Lori is screwed, in my opinion. Now then, so one of the things that her shenanigans, she's making all these different motions and requests and such that are just frankly nonsensical. The reflection of a narcissistic personality disorder, someone who believes that they're special, the rules don't apply to them, deadlines are not anything that she has to worry about because her case is a very notable and important case. So the judge has yet again offered to her the ability to waive her right to a speedy trial so that she can prepare for trial like she's saying she needs to be able to do. And she has again, multiple times now, she has again said, nope, I want my speedy trial. We're not going to delay this, not for a day. And a lot of the legal scholars are very confused by that because they're just like, my goodness, she's not at all prepared for this. And so I think there's two things at issue here. Remember, psychologically, I think psychologically she's okay with this case. This case is not the one that bothers her because Charles is gone. He's dead. She cannot be confronted, right? But the case with Brandon Boudreaux, through the eyes of a personality disorder, the case with Brandon Boudreaux is dramatically different because Brandon will be there. Her victim is going to be called to testify. He's going to take the stand, and she's going to be faced with the reality of who she is. She's living her life in this sort of altered reality where she's convinced herself that she's special and she's wonderful and all these bad things didn't happen to her, that she's just the victim of all these other people with problems. She has absolutely no ability to recognize her culpability, right? Well, that is going to be very difficult to maintain that facade with Brandon Boudreaux there, his wife there, other people. He worked with the same company that Charles Vallow worked for in Houston. They're going to have other of those employees that were there. These people were all terrified of Lori. They all thought that she and Melanie Boudreaux were going to come for them. They were all afraid that they had taken out life insurance policies on them and they didn't know it. Many of these insurance people here in Houston went into hiding while they were looking for Lori and Chad, and they didn't know where they were. That's how bad it was. So this trial, this isn't the bad one. The only person she has to face that she may be a little worried about is Kay. And believe you me, she hates Kay. She hates Kay because Kay victimized her by getting the money, right? She felt entitled to that money. She thought that was her insurance money. And the fact that her husband recognized that she was not doing well, literally in her mind, he changed the beneficiary to Kay just to ensure that the kids would be taken care of if something did go off the rails. And I feel so bad for Charles that even though he recognized and knew that things were really crazy, he still did not fully appreciate just how far off the rails things had gone. So for Lori, she now looks at Kay like Kay is the aggressor, that Kay betrayed her. I mean, it's hard to wrap your mind around it, but that's narcissistic personality disorder. All right. So she may be actually welcoming this opportunity to have a showdown with Kay in the courtroom. Somebody says, does she get to question Kay? The answer is absolutely yes. And is that an absolute horrifying thought? Does that make you feel like the world is turned upside down? There's no rational way that anyone could ever say her ability to question Kay in the death of her brother and her grandchild. There's no way anyone could say that that is righteous. No way. Absolutely no way. So it is horrible. It is horrible that she is going to get an opportunity, but Kay is tough. She is not a wilting flower. And I suspect that she is loaded for bear and she is ready to come out against Lori. I suspect that it's going to be I think the judge is going to be real nervous. I think he's going to have his hands full keeping control of the courtroom with Lori at the helm. So I don't think that that's the one that Lori fears. She may even be looking forward to the fight with Kay, but I definitely, without a doubt, I think she's terrified of having to face Brandon Boudreaux, seeing Melanie again. Her other family members, Adam Cox is on the witness list. So I do think that she wants somehow for there to be a time issue related to the second trial and maybe get some wiggle room to make a deal or something like that. So we'll see how that goes. But I think that's the one she's really afraid of. From a psychological point of view, I think that would make sense to me. Now then, she's playing other psychological games here, narcissistic games. And one of those is with Nate Eaton.
So what does she allege that Trina K did? Well, we have it right here.
Trina K, this is so cool. Who remembers Jodi Arias? If you remember the trial of Jodi Arias, put a 1 in the chat. And if you remember every woman in America falling in love with Juan Martinez, the guy who prosecuted Jodi Arias, put another 1. Okay, because this is important. Like it has come full circle. This like the circle of life. Okay. All right. So Trina is the prosecutor on this case. She is prosecuting Lori for the murder of Charles Vallow. Well, she is actually the fiance of Juan Martinez. How cool is that? It's a small world, isn't it? So I wish that Lori would have to serve time in Arizona and that she would end up having to be in the same cell as Jodi Arias. And just so that you guys know, the prison that Jodi Arias is in has no air conditioning. Yeah. Isn't that nice?
On or about September 6, 2024, Trina K directed the Chandler Police Department and the Gilbert Police Department to refuse to provide public documents to the defense, interfering with the defendant's right to conduct an investigation. So Lori's saying that she wasn't given documents that Trina told the police departments, Gilbert and Chandler, to not give her documents. So that's the allegation and count.
Okay, so that's Lori saying, you should drop the charges against me for prosecutorial misconduct. That was point number one, that Trina denied her what she was rightly entitled to have. Okay, now we know that's not true, but that's what Lori is saying.
Number one. Number two, on or about January 30th of this year, Trina K obtained and distributed attorney-client privileged communications between the defendant and her appellate attorney in Idaho, or communication between. And number three, that on or about March 11th of this year, Trina K gave legal advice to defense witness Nate Eaton in a, quote, off-the-record conversation regarding how to avoid being served with a subpoena from the defense. Ms. K.
Now, does this sound like a rational, logical, legal argument where the remedy is to completely throw out the case? Or does this sound like a little high school girl who's mad at the girl who stole her boyfriend? Right? It's going to get worse.
Has personally thrown her ethics and duties out the window in order to win this, quote, high-profile case in front of a worldwide audience. Lori goes on to say, because this court has ignored the state's conduct, Trina K became more blatant in her disregard for her ethical obligation. This is sadly similar to her longtime boyfriend, Juan Martinez's behavior in a, quote, high-profile case years ago here in Maricopa County. It seems her behavior is not original. The court is obligated to do.
Okay, now I want us all in our own living rooms everywhere around the world to stop a minute and go, nanny, nanny, boo, boo. Because that's basically what Lori just did in a legal motion, in a murder trial. And she says that they should just throw out the charges as the remedy to Trina K's behavior. It's going to get, it's unbelievable. This woman is about 14 years old in her brain.
Discipline officers of the court for misconduct. This conduct is egregious and needs to be addressed by the court. The actions the defendant is seeking this court take are as follows. 1, removal from both cases.
Oh, yeah.
2, sanctions. And 3, disbarment.
They wanted
by the state of penalties that Trina K's boyfriend, Juan Martinez.
She says that Trina K should be disbarred. Okay. Now this is the response from Trina K. Okay. So now she's going to answer to the court.
Has been no prosecutorial misconduct. The state responds to each of the 3 allegations by noting that, quote, the facts as alleged by noting the facts by the defendant as to each issue. Number 1, on September 6th, the state became aware that the defense had made a public records request to the Gilbert Police Department. The state emailed defense counsel and asked them to request these items from the state. The state also requested that the documents listed in the defendant's public records request from Gilbert. So they requested these documents that Lori Vallow Daybell wanted. When the state obtained the documents the defense requested, the state disclosed them on October 1st as, I think that means date stamped pages, maybe it means bait stamp. The defense had made a request to the crime analyst section of the Chandler Police. The state was advised that the defense request was improper because it was made to the crime analysis section rather than going through the public records request process. So, sounds like the defense requested the documents but didn't do it the right way. The state was advised the Chandler Police Records Specialist section spoke with Laura Moyes, who sent a request for, quote, log records for all digital devices downloaded. The state was also advised that the Chandler Police did not know what was being requested as, quote, log records. Chandler Police Records Specialist advised Laura Moyes that when computer crimes detectives are involved in a case, their reports contain downloaded information on all devices from Chandler Police. All reports related to the download of Charles Vallow's devices had been previously disclosed to the defense. Additionally, all extractions related to Charles Vallow's device have been disclosed. So the state's saying what you're asking for, what you requested, they've been disclosed.
It's already been done. And what makes this worse is that they had this exact argument in the courtroom in front of the judge, with the judge sitting there. So just keep listening.
September 19th, the state filed state's motion for defense to comply. On October 15th, the court issued a minute entry denying the state's request. The state is unaware of any other public records requests to either Chandler Police or Gilbert Police by the defendant or her defense team. So Lori Vallow is claiming in that first point that they withheld evidence from her. The state is responding and saying, no, we didn't. The stuff you wanted, we gave to you. And there's nothing more.
And they have, listen, they have had this same conversation with Lori in the courtroom and in other motions. And it's a broken record. You have it, you have it, you have it, you have it. And their response in the courtroom is, yeah, but it's 22 terabytes. How are we going to find it? So what Lori wanted, she wanted to be treated in a special way, and she wanted Trina to actually find the specific videos and such and give them to her. She basically is asking the prosecutor to be her legal secretary. It's pretty sad what's happening. And my heart goes out to Kobe Ryan. He's got a great podcast called Scar Wars. And if you haven't watched it, if you're interested in Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, and the nightmare that they unleashed, you've got to go watch him. He is an interesting guy. He's well-spoken, and boy, there's so much to learn from him. He has been through an extraordinary journey.
On February 6th, these are about the jails, the allegations that Trina K withheld or read attorney-client privilege between Lori and her Idaho appellate attorney.
Now, I didn't
February
hear this
6th,
part.
The state disclosed that jail calls made by Lori Vallow between October and January, as well as jail messages and photos from Lori Vallow's tablet from October to January.
3 months.
On March 18th, the defendant filed a motion to dismiss for violation of attorney-client privilege. The state is currently working on a response to this motion.
Okay.
The state hereby incorporates its response.
So they didn't do a response in this video. They must have some evidence they want to submit.
Motion to dismiss for violation for attorney-client privileges. Issue number 3, the fact that Lori Vallow says that Trina K gave me advice on how to avoid a subpoena.
Isn't that interesting? That here's a reporter. He's so much more than a reporter. He's a big dog with Idaho News, okay? But I'm just saying, in his direct interaction related to Lori, how do I say this? How indicative of a personality disorder that you are a reporter trying to just put the facts out about a trial, and then you wake up and this woman has named you as a witness in the next trial. How surreal to sit there and say, this, I don't know her. I don't know any of the victims. All I know is just what came out in court. That's all I know. So how do I have any kind of information for a trial? What does it have to do with me? So he basically is a victim of Lori Vallow and her personality disorders. It's just crazy that he is on this list. Now, here's the bad part. Okay, let me let this finish.
This is how Trina K responds. On March 6th, the defendant filed a notice. The state requested that separate notices be filed for each cause number so the state would know which defenses and witnesses applied to each case. On March 7th, the state learned that defense noticed witness Nate Eaton is a reporter from Idaho. On March 12th, the defendant filed a supplemental notice. March 16th, the state filed a motion to preclude all witnesses on her supplemental filing. So that's a lot of words, but basically the state filed a motion to have the people on that witness list precluded, not included to witness, to testify. At the final trial management conference on March 18th, the court heard from parties on this motion. The state advised that it did not have contact information for most of the witnesses. The state also advised that one of the defense witnesses, me, was a reporter. Nate Eaton contacted this prosecutor. I missed the page there, sorry. Nate Eaton contacted this prosecutor after court on March 18th, and this prosecutor called Mr. Eaton back. Mr. Eaton advised this prosecutor that his knowledge about the case comes from his interviews and investigation as a reporter. Mr. Eaton also advised that he had not been served with a subpoena by the defendant and he hoped to be in court for the trial. The prosecutor advised Mr. Eaton that even if he was not served, he still could not be in the courtroom if he was a noticed witness, and the rule of exclusion was in place.
There you go. That's the hook, right? That is Lori's personality disorder speaking. So here's what I mean by that. So whether he has anything to add to the case, whether she knows damn well she's not going to be calling him up, if he is on that list, he cannot be in the courtroom at all. So how is he going to report on the trial? You see, that's Lori, that's the personality disorder, that's the manipulation, that's the conniving. She literally wins nothing. She's not going to call him Justice Jane. There's nothing that he can add to her defense. Nothing. This is a jab back at him that he covered the trials in Idaho. And so she looks at him as he wants to hurt her. She looks at him as the enemy. And all he did was just report what happened in the courtroom. But for her and her very skewed view of reality, she looks at him on a personal level that, he tried to hurt her and she is out for vengeance. So the gotcha for Nate Eaton for covering the case of the other trials is keep him out of the courtroom so he cannot cover this case. So it's just such a great example of how people with personality disorders can disrupt your life. I mean, they can come up with the most amazing mental gymnastics to then rationalize their crazy behavior. No, not Jason Lum, Justice Jane. But to be fair, Jason Lum wasn't, Nate Eaton became synonymous with Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow. Everybody was always checking with Nate. Now, Justin Lum did a great job. He did a great job covering it, but he did have more the role of reporter, correct? Remember, Nate Eaton, this was sort of like the Cinderella song for Nate Eaton. This case with Lori and Chad, this really built his online presence. I mean, Idaho News has had a channel online for a long time, and they do really fun, cool things like, they do a Santa Claus every year where they go around and they gift things to people in the Idaho community. But it was this case with Lori and Chad. This changed everything for Nate and for Idaho News. Remember, he went to Hawaii. You remember that? He chased them down. Yes, DB. Yes, exactly. So remember, she saw him. He was asking questions. She knew that he was in the courtroom in a weird way. I guarantee you that if you had the opportunity to talk to Lori, she would tell you that Nate Eaton was responsible for her and Chad getting caught. That it's his fault that they're in jail. That's what I guarantee you she says that. She believes that. All right. And he was there. Yes. They got in the helicopter, the Idaho 4 News helicopter. They went out to the location. You could see the cops where they had set up the tents. Nate was just invested in everything related to this story. And I mean, the coverage that he did was absolutely stellar, top of the line. So good that he and Keith Morris became friends. He got the respect of Keith Morris. So, so Lori is getting her vengeance on Nate Eaton by making sure that he's not going to be able to cover this case. Now, do I think it's going to stand? No, I don't think it's going to stand. I think that prosecutor Trina Kay, I think that she will do what she has to do, demand that final list, and then Nate will, they'll know that they're not going to be calling him, and he'll be able to cover it. So, I would agree, Kelly. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So I just thought this was such a good opportunity to talk about how personality disorders of other people, they do these mental gymnastics, and they can even hurt you when you are not even in their personal relationships. People with personality disorders can wreak a lot of havoc, which is one of the reasons why it's really important to learn to recognize them first and learn how to respond in a way that won't trigger some of their reactions.
Prosecutor advised Mr. Eaton that this prosecutor would try to interview the witnesses and file a motion to preclude those that should be precluded at the end of the next week, which would be this week. The prosecutor did not advise Mr. Eaton how to avoid service of the defendant's subpoena. So what I can tell you based on both of those responses, that Ms. Kay's response is accurate. For one, Lori Vallow Daybell said that on or about March 11th, Trina Kay gave me legal counsel. I have never spoken to Trina Kay in my life before March 18th. So that is wrong, on or about March 11th. I did say on Courtroom Insider that I had spoken with prosecutors and defendants. I did not say where those prosecutors and defense attorneys work, but I've spoken with several, not necessarily in Arizona or in Idaho or in other states. So we will see what happens with that.
Because the truth is, Nate, we need you covering this case. It's going to be, who thinks that it will be strange to be watching the Lori Vallow trial and not have Nate Eaton giving commentary? It just won't work, will it? Because he was there from the very beginning. From the very beginning. So we're pulling for you, Nate. I promise. We want you there, especially because, like, I work, right? And so I won't be able to see the morning stuff. I'll have to wait for the afternoon part of the trial. So I need someone to go to and watch, get a synopsis of what happened during the morning sessions. So Nate, we got our fingers crossed, buddy. All right. Hey, Barb Balouse, good to see you. All right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. She's so vindictive. And I thought this was a great opportunity to point out how these personality disorders, people can really They can really get vindictive, and you don't even have to be in their personal sphere. They can, if they just decide in their mind that you did something against them, you could be in big trouble. All right. Okay. So now I want to go over to this. Oh my goodness. He is, yes, Nate is synonymous with these cases that, satellite around Lori Vallow. And so, yeah, I really do hope they work this out so he can do what he needs to do. Everybody wants him doing it. This is an opportunity for her to lash out. That's all it is. It has no substance at all in regards to the case. None. Zero. All right. Okay. So if you thought that was interesting, put a 1. If you thought that it was a huge, tragic waste of time, put a 2. And then we will move on to the Dateline interview. So what do y'all think? Was that interesting, or was that a tragic loss of time? It looks like the demon's trying to come out of her face, doesn't it? All right. Oh, I'm sorry, Junie. Junie says it was a waste of time. So sorry. Okay. Now then. Yes, Northwest. They're working on that. They'll have to question him. The judge will have to listen to how Lori intends to use him in her defense, and then the judge can make a decision about whether to remove him or not. I do. This judge knows the deal. The judge knows what's going on. Trina K knows what's going on. They remember Juan Martinez dealt with another woman who is a duplicate of Lori Vallow. Jodi Arias is Lori Vallow, and Lori Vallow is Jodi Arias. They are exactly the same woman. Okay, trust me, you're gonna see that when the trial gets started. Yeah, her face is splitting open. All right. No, you're good, Junie. It's fine. All right, so let's take a listen to the Dateline. Now, one thing that came out before we get started on this, one of my reactions was I was a bit disappointed. Sage, quit. Stop. I was a bit disappointed. I've got to let that silly dog in. If I don't, she has an anxiety problem, right? And when she gets anxious, she just barks and barks and barks and barks. And that is what you're listening to. So give me a moment. I've got to let her in. I apologize.
Well, I'm sitting in my chair late at night, watching crime unfold under the pale moonlight. From the darkest corner, stories unfold. True crime jewels, she's brash and she is bold. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep into the mysteries that never sleep. From missing kids in Tennessee to angry husbands named Barry. True crime's calling and we're taking the time. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. This True Crime Jewels got what you need. From missing people to twisted minds, we're unraveling secrets old Barry tried to hide. Every clue, every twist and turn. In the world of crime, there's always more to learn.
All right, we had a little intermission, didn't we? Okay. Run, get the holy water. No seclusion. I cannot imagine her face staring back at you. So one of my first impressions was I was really disappointed that there's not much quotable Lori in this, right? There's an awful lot of content showing Keith Morrison talking, showing some of the history around the case. Colby Ryan makes a few statements. We get some of the old footage from Hawaii. And I thought, now, why did they do that? Because he had her for an hour or two, maybe it was 2 hours. Why didn't they just like let her talk? Why didn't they just roll it end to end as an interview? Because that's not really what it is. It's not an interview. It's like a documentary sort of, right? And I get, okay, 90 minutes. Thank you, Northwest. Wow, Northwest is like our encyclopedia on this case. Thank you. I'm happy to have you here, Northwest. So 90 minutes, and, you know, they got a little bit less than an hour, and it's not even her talking. And you know what I ultimately thought? I thought maybe her nonsense was out of control. Maybe she was just babbling stuff, attacking different people that they didn't feel justified letting it roll. Because then you re-victimize people. For example, Colby Ryan, her son, he did an interview with her for Scars Wars, and it made me cry. It was a nightmare. And I just kept thinking, oh my God, Colby, hang up. You don't need this. You don't need to listen to this. Protect yourself from this woman. You know, it was terrible. And basically she told Colby that Tylee is the one that ended the life of JJ. And then afterwards, then she ended hers. And it was such an egregious, it was such an assault on Colby. He knows, right? Like in his mind, cognitively, he knows that's just not true. That it's just not even remotely true. We know that they were a week apart, or maybe it was 2 weeks apart now. I can't remember. It's been so long. And that it, you know, it was Tylee first after, right, the day of the Yellowstone trip. And then like a week later, then it was JJ. But to have to, you've already had your family wiped out, right? And then you have to sit there and listen to the one remaining living person, the one who wiped everyone out. Now she has manipulated the story so that the most innocent and sweetest in your family are now being blamed for the biggest nightmare. It's so cruel. It's so chilling. It's so cold. And so, you know, if she's willing to say that to her child, we really don't know what kind of nightmare comments that she made to Keith Morrison or Keith Morris. Sorry, we're going to start playing the Doors. So I think maybe that's what happened, that they just didn't have enough content from her that would even make sense, I think. All right. So again, that's just my speculation. Thank you, Northwest. You are right about that. After blaming Tylee, then Lori had the audacity to suggest seeing her grandkids. It's just, she cannot see further than that pointy nose on her face. She can't see past that nose. Her entire existence revolves right around the shell that is Lori. No one else matters. No one is as hurt as her. No one cries as hard as her. No one is as happy as her. She is the only reality that she has. It's true. All right. She is a star child. This is a terrifying person. What Lori Vallow is capable of is absolutely terrifying. And remember, Jodi Arias, Lori Vallow, two peas in a pod. Here's a scary thought, y'all. How many more of these types of people are out there walking the street today? They're out there. What did Chris Watts do? He just erased his family. And then a couple of hours after they were all dead, He's looking up the cost of new Audis. Yeah, ought to scare you to death. They're out there.
Absolutely not. What proof and evidence is there? All these rumors.
You hear that arrogant disdain for all of us. Lori Vallow hates you, and she hates me. She hates the judges. She hates the cops. She hates anyone who is holding up reality in front of her face. Disdain. She absolutely has no ownership at all of the devastation that she unleashed onto Colby Ryan's life. She doesn't care.
Heard a lot of stuff, but what I tell you will be the truth.
Will she reveal her secrets at last? An interview like you've never seen. I'm Lester Holt, and this is Dateline.
Thank you for your
Vallow
seriousness,
Daybell.
Lester. Now that does make you feel a bit better, yes? All right, we got to take our wins where we can find them.
As I look back at this scene, I cannot help but wonder. The one in
Watch
orange,
this.
I need hardly tell you, was, perhaps still is, the most infamous woman.
What in all that's holy? And look how she walks. Look how she holds her hands. She thinks that she is back on the Miss felony criminal murderer of America. She thinks she's in a beauty contest. Look at the arrogance, this woman. Oh my God.
Orange, I need
Look at
hardly
her.
tell you, was, perhaps still is.
You listen, heifer. You are not cute. You are not desirable. You're not all flirty. Everyone is looking at you, and we see horns growing out of your head, lady. You are demonic.
The most infamous
Oh, look at her. Oh, I can't.
woman in America, Lori Vallow. What was she thinking just here? What was her plan? That she had one would seem quite obvious soon enough. But not yet. Not here. As her jailers led her down a planned white hallway in Phoenix, Arizona's jail for women.
Don't forget Jodi Arias walking out of the courtroom, and there were reporters and cameras waiting to do an interview, and she's instructing them on how to put on her makeup. Can you ever forget that? Well, here she is again. Same woman, a trail of dead bodies.
Hello, come on in. And yes, I felt a moral twinge. This would get her some attention.
Now she's waiting for them to take the shackles off. And they're like, heifer, sit down. You are a felon, and no, you don't get any special privileges. And yet they did give her special privileges. I don't even know why they even allowed this interview. Arizona, man, you guys got to get it together. We didn't need that interview of Jodi Arias. Now we got another one. I don't know, unless you're just trying to teach all these men out there the kinds of women to stay away from.
Apparently they have to stay on.
They do?
Go figure.
Yeah. I talked to my hands, so it's going to be a little difficult.
Oh, you'll be all right.
We'll do the best we can.
Oh, yeah, we sure will. Why is she acting like this is a collaborative endeavor, that they're all working for her? Because that's what she believes in her mind.
Half a decade after the events that put her here, she would finally tell us why.
Say hi.
Why her children are dead.
That is what matters right there. Not that crazy nut with hair, down her back as if she's, 16 years old going to a beauty pageant. Look at this woman. She has learned nothing. She is the exact same monster now that she was before these two babies had to pay with their lives.
and her ex-husband and her lover's wife. Why all that death and mayhem? But Lori Vallow, as I was about to discover, had her own unique way of dealing with nosy interrogators.
You're the most hated mom in America.
I heard that. And we all know what the media does. And they exaggerate everything and they make stuff up and they twist things around. So I don't.
Okay, what, Lori? What was twisted? What was made up? You're full of shit.
I don't know how it became what it is today. It's amazing to me. And I don't really know. And I'm not exposed to what's going on out there.
She doesn't know how it came to be what it is today. Again, here's the evidence that she lives in a made-up world. The reason that it is like this is because there are 4 and what I believe are 5 dead people that all loved her or loved Chad. That's how it became a big deal, Lori, because you murdered your babies. You murdered your husbands. That's why, because you put insurance money, you valued insurance money more than the lives of your children. That's why it became what it is, because you are a psycho heifer.
Are you misunderstood?
Absolutely. But yeah.
Misunderstood how? I mean, how do
In
we get
every
you
way.
wrong?
I mean, how do you know a person if you never talked to them in 5 years? How do you know anything about them? How do you know anything about their life? About what?
You know what, Lori? I knew that this is exactly who you would be. I knew what your personality would be. All of this extroverted, I'm such a victim crap. The flirting, acting like you're still, oh, look, I'm a MILF. Every guy, every woman wants me. You're a caricature. You're not even a real human being. You are disconnected from anything that is real life.
But how it really is.
You remember the case, right? Who can forget it?
Hey, Chad and Lori, it's Dateline. How are you? Just heading out today?
And look at this pud knocker. He is such a pud knocker. Look at her husband. All right. Look at Charles Vallow, a true, strong, supportive man, a God-fearing man, working hard, providing. Do you know that he paid the cell phone bill of every person in Lori's family? Meaning her mom and her dad and her sister. They exploited this man. They took from him. And she turns around and ends up finding the Chadster. It's unbelievable that she traded in a good guy, a loving, rational man, traded him in on this
Case, right?
week.
Who can forget it?
What?
Hey, Chad and Lori, it's Dateline. How are you?
Yeah, there he is. That's the Chadster. That's old Chunker himself. He's a joke. He is so weak and ineffective. He has never accomplished anything in his life. Nothing. We learned that through Hidden True Crime when they were interviewing his brother's wife. What was she thinking? What would drive her to leave a very comfortable life with plenty of money, luxury cars, big pretty house? What would drive this woman to leave all of that and in exchange for a pud knocker? Look at him. Does he realize the entire globe is searching for these 2 children? That the entire globe is looking at these 2 and they're all saying these are monsters. And You have to remember, at this time, they had just murdered JJ and Tylee just weeks before. So why is he smiling at cameras? Why is he smiling? He's smiling because he is weak. He's a follower. He can't control or take care of anything. He is a yes man to Lori. Whatever Lori Vallow says, he's running around like a little yappy dog trying to make her happy. And I'll guarantee you, that was an exercise in futility trying to keep Lori Vallow happy.
You said nothing?
Oh, no comments.
We began our coverage just over 5 years ago.
Oh, no.
Watch
Hey,
this.
Chad.
Watch the way they're walking. Now, you saw him just then smiling. Now, she's about to take charge, right? She's angry now. You can see that. The way she holds his arm, she's literally pushing him. Watch this. It's crazy.
Chad and Lori's Dateline. How are you?
Look
You
at
said nothing?
What? Right here.
We began our coverage just over
Unbelievable.
5 years ago on the island of Kauai, where in January 2020, we found Lori and her fifth husband, Chad Daybell. Just the two of them.
He's not a
Seemingly
husband.
on holiday.
He's
without
not a
care in the
husband.
world.
He's a partner
Where are
in
your kids?
crime.
Except,
There's a lot of people who are worried about your kids.
yes.
He's still
except
smiling. You
Are you guys worried
idiot.
about them?
that this was just months after Lori's
You
children,
dumbass.
16-year-old Tylee and 7-year-old JJ, had simply vanished
JJ,
from their home in Idaho,
say hi.
vanished from the face of the earth.
Happy family.
And by then, police had learned about other suspicious deaths in Chad and Lori's.
And right here, Nate Eaton is right here. This is why Nate Eaton was put on the witness list. She thinks she's going to stop him from doing the story about Charles Vallow's trial.
In their circle.
What happened to Tammy, Chad?
Chad's wife, Tammy, found dead one autumn morning in
What
Idaho.
a nightmare.
Just a couple of weeks before.
You tell me, is that demonic? I've never shown this picture and asked this question before. Every single time I look at this, he looks possessed. It really, if you're a religious person, this is what we envision a demonic person, someone who's possessed. This is what we envision right here. This is it in the flesh. It's incredible. Scary stuff.
Chad married Lori. Also, recently.
Now, imagine having this man with plenty of money, nice life, good father, kind guy, give you anything you want. Why would you trade him in on a pud knocker like the Chadster? Why would you do that? Well, one reason only. Lori was hungry to be notable and known. She craved fame, or infamy was good for her too. She seems to be just as happy to be infamous, but she craved fame. And I believe, it's my opinion, that she met Chad. She was amazed by what a following he had for his books. She really was excited by that idea. And a lot of people thought that he had a special phone line to God. And her weirdness, she just said, I'll just go along and pretend like he's got all these special powers. And then one day I'll be Queen Chadster. And then I'll have all this worship that I've always wanted. She turned her back. This is a personality disorder. She turned her back on reality, a good and decent man who was a great father, who kept a good home for them. That was reality. She turned on him for this sick need to be special. And that's what we mean by needing to be special, but in a pathological way.
Dead, Lori's fourth husband, Charles Vallow. Charles had been shot to death by Lori's brother, Alex Cox.
You know, no weapons? No weapons on me.
And then not far away, in another Phoenix suburb,
Where's your emergency?
Someone just shot my window.
a 911 call from the estranged husband of Lori's niece. It appeared to him someone was trying to kill him.
So I was just pulling in.
So, well, you get the picture.
I'm getting shot at, so I drove straight.
And the two people at the center of all these strange goings-on, the missing kids, the dead husband, the dead wife, the driveway shooting, claim to be leaders of the gathering of the 144,000 chosen people, who, according to their own unique reading of the book of Revelations, would amass in a spot in southeastern Idaho near the town of Rexburg to greet the second.
And there is something about Rexburg that has attracted some fairly fundamentalist gathering. There are some other deaths, Mormon people, unusual death, and then you find out they lived in Rexburg. So it does seem like there's some type of like a pilgrimage to Rexburg. There's a lot of people that have gathered there somehow thinking it's going to be a place of significance. That just tells me that the idea that, you know, that Lori and Chad were empowered by someone higher up. I believe it was Jason Mao. Kresha has done a lot of research. She has another idea, but they didn't fall and tumble into this accidentally. You know what I mean? He went to Rexburg intentionally as pilgrimage. And then Lori came intentionally as pilgrimage. There's some Serena, Jason Mao's sister, like there was a lot of them. And there have been some crazy deaths and some unusual things that have revolved around Rexburg. So it's a weird set of circumstances.
Second coming of Christ. Chad Daybell and his new wife, Lori Vallow. In February of 2020, Lori was arrested in Hawaii and flown back to the state where her children had disappeared, Idaho.
Welcome back, Lori. Where are your kids?
Where again she refused to give the police any help at all. And then,
and that's true, you know, this idea that they can't be with someone who is more successful than they are. It may be that Lori traded in and got the Chadster, maybe because she thought that she could control him, that he was more controllable than what Charles Vallow was. I mean, like it or not, Charles Vallow was a man, right? He knew right from wrong. He knew what his goals were for his family, and he just wasn't going to get caught up in all this religious nonsense. So, you know, maybe that is what happened. Maybe she did ultimately say, here's a guy, he's got a big following. If I could be, you know, his wife, I would have a lot of influence, and then I could control him and make him do my bidding. That could have been part of the problem solving.
4 months later,
Police found what they believed to be human remains.
the bodies of the two children, JJ
Such
and
a
Tyler,
horrible
were
day.
found in Chad Daybell's backyard.
Such a horrible
Lori,
day.
Guilty.
multiple convictions,
Guilty.
and a sentence of life in prison in Idaho.
What happened, Lori? You're not
We met
smiling
Lori
anymore.
Vallow 6 weeks ago at the Estrella unit of the Maricopa County Jail in Phoenix.
Boy, we heard about the Estrella unit how many times with the Jodi Arias case? Remember that? It's crazy.
where she is soon due to go on trial again, twice, charged with conspiracy in the attempted murder of her niece's husband.
Alrighty then.
And the murder of her own fourth husband, Charles. Got all that?
I'm in trial coming up, as you know. Do you know that, Keith?
Oh, I
Are
know
you keeping
that.
track?
Does she seem normal to you? just quick little check-in with everyone in the chat. Just watching those couple of little interactions, is this a normal woman, or is there an awful lot of pent-up energy? There's a lot of pent-up energy. She's angry. She tries every little trick in the book to be manipulative, yes, including flirting, but she tries other manipulations as well. And to Keith's credit, he's not falling for any of it. So that was a good thing to see, that he, was prepared for that. And maybe there was someone that talked to him and said, this is probably what you're going to encounter, and don't give her anything. Don't react or respond to her in any way. You can bet every single thing she's saying and doing is designed to get to you. Don't let her. Be a gray rock.
Oh, yeah, I'm keeping track. So combative is how she was going to be. Practicing, perhaps? She is representing herself in court now. And she made the decision to meet me for an on-camera interview because she had been telling us she wanted to tell the truth.
It's not fun when so many things are not true.
Well, we'll get to that, won't we?
Oh, yes.
No, she needs to manipulate. She needs to put her part out there. She can't let the facts just be the facts.
It's a loss of things. To Jesus in a jail cell.
He has a great sense of humor, and he's super, super funny.
To tall tales just can't be true.
You're asking me personally, the only person on the earth who really knows, and you're shaking your head no, like that didn't happen.
To the bizarre claim Lori laid on the son who lived to tell the story.
Did you believe any of that stuff?
No.
To the investigators who speak out for the first time and reveal how they cornered Lori and found those missing children.
Worry no more.
To a story that got weird the moment Chad laid eyes on Lori.
I've loved him for eternities.
Eternities.
Now then, there you go. See, she doesn't believe this. She doesn't believe
Got weird
that they have
the moment Chad
that they've had multiple lives together on multiple planets. She doesn't believe it. It's all over her face.
laid eyes.
Watch her face. Watch. There's a little bit of shame. There it is. She knows it's a foolish idea. She knows that it is nonsense. The stuff that's being said about multiple probations, knowing one another, being married in previous lives, the darkness, the lightness, it was all nonsense. She knows it's nonsense, and that's why you are seeing shame. And she hates him for bringing it up. There's shame. And now look at that face. She's looking at him right now and she's saying, and I'll kill you too. This woman, this is your monster. This is the real deal right here. And Jodi Arias was exactly the same.
The question hung in the air during our sometimes strange jailhouse conversation, did for me at least.
And I will love him for eternities in the future.
Was the meeting that...
And listen, pay attention to the change in the tone of her voice. It becomes very childlike. It becomes like a like a teenage girl in love. Because it's just a fantasy. What this thing about multiple lives on different planets and always being married to Chad, it's fantasy. She's acting a role in this moment. We saw the reality of her shame. We saw the moment of hate because we know that she is full of shit. She doesn't believe this. She's acting out a role in a way to try to get power. And now she has to continue the ruse lest she looks foolish. Well, I mean, of course she looks foolish, but in her eyes, she cannot chance looking foolish. So instead, she'll just continue to speak with great authority on the realities of multiple probations. But listen to her voice turn into a teenager.
Hung in the air during our sometimes strange jailhouse conversation, did for me at least.
And I will love him for eternities in the future.
And they lived happily ever after. And there was a handsome prince, and the princess waited for many years to meet her handsome prince, and they lived happily ever after. If you see and hear that nonsense, put a 1 in the chat. If you think it sounded perfectly normal to you, put a 2. I'm just curious. When you notice these things in people, it is reality, and they all do the same thing. Another narcissistic, histrionic woman, given a similar set of circumstances, will do the little fairy tale voice. I promise.
House conversation, did for me at least.
And I will love him for eternities in the future.
Okay. And I will love him for eternities in the future. Does that sound real to you? Is that the way that you talk about loving your husband or wife or children? Of course not. No. That she's telling you a fairy tale. And they lived happily ever after. He should have said, shut up, Lori. You don't believe that. Now cut the crap and let's talk reality.
The meeting that launched all this, the result of pure chance?
Boy, did you see how fast that face changed? There's your psychopath. Let's slow it down and take a look at what a psychopath does.
In the future.
And I will love him forever and ever in the future. She's telling her little fairy tale.
And I will love him for eternities in the future.
Watch her face.
Was the meeting that launched all this?
Watch her face.
The result of pure...
And now there's the reality. She's saying, give me a knife. I'll stick it in your neck. But did you see how fast her affect changed? That is not normal. You don't go from Disney princess to a serial killer in 0.2 seconds. That is not how emotion works.
Eternities in the future.
What?
Was the meeting that launched all this the result of pure chance?
I hate your guts for making me sound and act like an idiot. When she said, and I will love him for all eternities and forever, she knows that she looks ridiculous. And she hates him because he made her do that in her own mind. She really doesn't see that she has any other choice, because if she does, she has to drop her facade. Her mask has to be removed for her to respond in an accurate way. But she is hanging on to that mask with, white knuckles. And even though the complication, she looks foolish, she knows she looks and sounds foolish. And rather than hating herself, she's going to hate Keith because he asked the question.
Me at least.
And I will love him for eternities in the future.
Yeah, watch the face
Was
change.
the meeting...
See it? Oh, it's chilling. This is one scary heifer.
eternities in the future.
Was the meeting that launched
Oh, she's so scary.
all this the result of pure chance?
There is absolutely no way of knowing what JJ and Tylee were living with in the weeks building up to their deaths. This monster right here was the one that was in charge.
Or was it what Lori Vallow always wanted? She was born into a large
It's some pretty interesting dynamics in that picture too, that everybody seems to be turned toward Lori. It's really interesting. It's a sad picture, if you ask me. Really, really sad.
Mormon family in Southern California in 1973 and was a charmer from the very start, but was unlucky in love. 3 husbands by the age of 28 and a young son named Colby, who
Keith, she was not unlucky in love. She is the monster that she is.
as a boy adored his hairdresser mom.
I would say my mom is multi-talented. She's always loved to do different things, sing, dance.
And oh, Lori loved the spotlight. Competed on the TV game show Wheel of Fortune.
How was the hair in Austin?
It's good.
Good.
Us is a happening place.
Probably thanks to you.
Pretty much.
And even in the Mrs. Texas pageant in 2004, during which she offered what now sounds like prophecy.
I'm basically a ticking time bomb.
That personal insight is interesting, isn't it? Very worrisome. And again, this was the Mrs. Texas, right? She's like 30 something years old when she was in it, already married, already had kids. How many women that are of that age, they're married, they have families, they have companies or work that they love, that the idea of prancing around in a swimming suit and high heels on a stage so that your appearance can be judged, does that seem healthy? Or does that seem like the actions of someone who really doesn't know who they are, that their personal identity is completely wrapped up in their appearance and that there's really no substance underneath, right? It's a really sad thing that she did this. She lost in round 2. Yeah, she did not win. Somebody said that she won. I didn't see it today, but I have heard some conversations that people said she won, but she did not. She was out very quickly.
But aside from that, she was a neighborhood fun mom.
She was always being the one to pick everybody up and sing karaoke at the family party. And she just got everybody.
But what happened when she's singing karaoke? Was she really doing that for everyone else? Did she get the kids up and get them excited? And then did she go into the kitchen and make snacks? Or did she go sit down and watch the kids perform? Or did Lori remain on stage? Lori needed to be the center of attention. And yes, that was fun for the kids because she was very childlike herself, correct? Like, these are the women that, like at Thanksgiving, the whole family will get together and all of the 30, 40, 50-year-old kids will be talking about their jobs or their work or their hobbies, right? They'll be getting, oh, this is what's been going on. This is what I've been doing. But this will be the woman who will be like in the bedroom with all the teenage girls putting makeup on each other. It's an age inappropriate activity but it's activities that get them an enormous amount of attention. And it was good for the kids. Don't get me wrong. It's good for the kids to have that kind of aunt or uncle in the family, because in short doses, small doses, it can make the time very entertaining. There's a lot of energy spent on this fun stuff. But in the long run for the kids, it's devastating because it's not real. It's just to get them attention. It's not about connecting with the children.
Excited to have fun.
By 2006, she'd had a second child, a girl named Tylee. Divorced Tylee's father and married her fourth husband, Charles Vallow.
He was so nice to me. He was so nice to Tylee. He seemed like he genuinely cared about us.
And in 2014, Lori and Charles adopted Charles's great nephew, a little boy named JJ,
Hello.
who was autistic.
Hi, JJ.
Hi, JJ.
Hi, Colby.
Hi, Colby.
I fell in love with him instantly.
You're so
So
cute.
I would
sweet.
get up in the middle of the night, run up to the room to see if he was breathing. Just
So
stand there and just
sweet.
is his chest moving? Yeah. So I loved him so much.
What was it about him?
He just has such a great spirit.
And so it went
Hi, child.
until 2018, when Lori went to a get-together at her church in Phoenix to hear an end-time speaker named
And made friends with one Melanie Gibb, who was really good friends with Jason Mel. Isn't that interesting? Melanie Gibb, inquiring minds want to know, would you come on my channel and let me and Crusha interview you, please?
Melanie Gibb.
She had a lot of the same energy I did, enthusiasm for learning and excitement for the second coming.
Like Lori, Melanie was drawn to a particular end times theology that their Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints considered too extreme. And as of that day, they became fast friends.
So like a sister kind of a friend that you just...
And I wouldn't believe a word this woman says. There is no reason to believe that this woman is acting from a place of integrity. If you know the facts of this case and her relationship with Chad and Lori and Jason Mao, you would be jumping up and down asking, when is she going to be arrested?
Just meet suddenly and just like, this girl's a lot like me.
So Melanie listened
That
to
didn't
Lori's
age
stories
well,
about
did
her
it?
husband, Charles Vallow, and 3 kids. By then, Colby was 22, Tylee 16, and JJ was 6. Melanie got the impression that her new friend was struggling.
JJ was a lot of work for her.
Sure.
And he was running around and she was trying to make him happy. And then Tylee did not have a good relationship with her mom.
So when Melanie Gibb suggested a road trip to attend a religious conference in St. George, Utah, Lori didn't need much persuading.
I kept getting ideas to write a novel, but when you're...
And once there, Melanie discovered that Chad Daybell, a man she knew was one of the speakers.
He is a pud knocker.
Chad was an author of end times themed fiction, claimed to have had near-death experiences that allowed him to see the spirit world, see the past, the future. Lori and Melanie went to hear him speak. And after, Lori met Chad. She was 45 then, he 50.
Do you remember the first meeting with
Do
Chad?
you want to be a
What was that like?
Mormon?
That was amazing.
Tell me about it.
It was amazing because the veil was once again opened.
Oh, shut up.
And we remembered each other.
No, you didn't. You're
The
delusional.
the veil between heaven and earth. And that, said Lori to Melanie, is how she knew she and Chad had met in past lives. Lots of times.
Evil.
Chad-
He looks evil. He looks
She and Chad
possessed.
had met in past lives.
He looks possessed by demons. I don't care what anyone says. To me, he looks like someone that could be in The Exorcist.
Lots of times. Chad's past lives.
How many?
31.
And Lori's past lives.
How many lives had she supposedly had?
21. And just 5 on this planet. Both of them had 5 on this planet.
Oh, wait a minute.
Hey, what the hell are you smirking about, Melanie Gibb? You were the one facilitating this facade. Those kids, their lives being gone, that part of that falls on your ass. So I don't know why
It's on
you're
this
acting
planet.
all haughty and high and mighty.
Where were the other ones? Other Earths that were located in the universe.
My spirit was standing up, looking down at my body.
But now,
And
years after that meeting and all the trouble that followed it, sitting here talking to me in jail, maybe Lori would finally recognize a more normal reality.
I mean, it's unlike anything earthly once you're out of your body. I was like, this is
No.
I recognized him spiritually. He
Recognize.
recognized me spiritually, that we had known each other for eternities.
No, you're lying again, and you feel embarrassed and ashamed. You simply said, look at all these people that are hanging on his every word. He actually has a real following, and I could get in on that action, and I could suddenly be important, like I'm destined to be, like my daddy always told me I was going to be. That's the truth, Lori.
Chad, hi.
Hello. Soon, Chad appeared on a podcast with Lori
Oh,
and Melanie.
look, it's Lori again. Look, it's Melanie again. Melanie Gibb again. And Jason Mao. Huh. What do you know?
Be on the podcast with you.
And then, just 3 weeks after he met Lori, Chad traveled from his home in Idaho to Arizona for a religious meeting at Lori's house.
No,
Well,
it wasn't
Lori's husband,
house.
Charles,
It
was
was
out of town.
Charles's house. It was Charles's money that was paying for Charles's house. And Lori just walked away from reality in such a need to be special and seen and famous that she traded in on a pud knocker.
Did you see evidence that she and Chad were falling in love?
Oh, yeah. I asked her, like, why don't you get a divorce? And she said, well, Chad and I are not allowed to.
Lori's reason? She and Chad, she told Melanie, were exalted, godlike, no divorce for deities. Something we asked Lori about.
Oh, so you can
Or
murder your
tried to.
children, okay?
So when
in Chad's magical world, in his porcelain portal, you can murder your kids and murder your wife, but you can't get divorced.
Chad came along and said you're a goddess and you've lived for since the beginning of time, and
Who
so is
said
he.
that Chad said that? Are you saying that Chad said that?
No, I'm.
Did
I'm
you hear Chad say
just
that to
trying to
me?
remember.
You've heard a lot of stuff, Keith, and
But
I'm here
what-
to say you've heard a lot of stuff,
what-
but what I tell you will be the truth.
Okay,
Well,
you know
will
what,
it be-
Lori? You evil creature. You know where that came from? That came from the communications between you and the pud knocker. What he is talking about was directly read from your messages, little something, something. So you can wipe that evil look off your damn face. We know you'd like to kill the man, but you can't because you got chains around your wrists.
Was it ever? With Chad in the picture, said Melanie Gibb, Lori began saying some strange and disturbing things about husband Charles.
Chad calls and says, I just want to let you know that Charles, something happened to him. His spirit is no longer on this earth. It is in the spirit world. And there was this character.
Do you see the size of that chicken? We're in the spirit world. They can't see us. What movie was that from? Who knows? So this whole deal about that Charles doesn't exist anymore. His body has been taken over by Ned or Nate or Ed or whatever it was. That's just simple manipulation, right? That is objectifying the person, removing their humanity, so then you can act out against them in an inhumane way.
Character named Ned Snyder, and now he was possessing Charles's physical body.
So what? He'd become a demon or something, or
I guess you could call it that. They
Zombie?
later phrased it as a zombie, but in the beginning they just said Ned.
Poor Charles had no idea about any of this, of course, until Lori told him because a couple of weeks after that phone call, at the end of January 2019, Charles called the police.
I can't get in touch with my kids.
After coming home from a trip and finding his truck and his family gone.
I don't know where my kids are.
What a nightmare, literally.
Lost her mind. I don't know how else to say it. We're LDS. She thinks she's a resurrected being and a god.
Charles Vallow felt the ground shifting under his feet. His wife, Lori, had, in his words to local police, lost it. Ever since she'd met this guy at a religious conference named...
Okay, what am I fixing to say? Y'all say it for me. What does he look like? He looks like a demon. Tell me, am I wrong about that? If someone had just listened, absolutely. Yep. They were asking for help. It's just incredible. But you tell me, does that look like an evil human being? He's an evil pud knocker. Yuck, he's gross.
And Chad Daybell, Charles said, she was different.
She said, "You're not Charles. I don't know who you are, what you did with Charles, but I can murder you now." I don't know where my kids are.
Charles's anxiety was fully apparent on the body cam video.
He's crying in the body
It's
cam.
gotten really, really bad lately. She's had a break. I'm going to kill you.
3 encounters with cops where he's begging for help. 3. What was wrong with all these cops?
You're going to be murdered today or tomorrow. I'm not irrational or stupid or anything. I just want her, I want her to get it out.
Yeah.
She's my wife. I love her to death. Something's going on.
Okay.
Later, at Charles's request, Lori submitted to a mental evaluation.
Hello.
Her visit was captured on police body cam too.
I got an argument with my husband.
Lori told the police that Charles was the problem, said he had cheated on her, and then flew into a rage when she confronted him.
Unfortunately, yeah, we've had to leave and go to hotels just so he calms down or something, you know.
Question. Did you see any indication of a man overwhelmed by rage? Right? Why didn't these cops ask themselves that question? Why couldn't they look at that and go, we have body cam. We talked to him. He doesn't seem like he's filled with rage.
The cops seemed sympathetic.
Just talking to you, I mean, I don't see you being a danger to yourself or anybody else.
Yeah, and what
That's
training?
exactly
What training, sir, do you have to determine that? Right? Who remembers Kylie Rodney? Again, the cops making a decision of safety or level of dangerousness on the spot with absolutely zero training.
What the mental evaluation found.
I'm going to go check and see if I can go in there.
But Charles seemed to know better. And at the end of June 2019, he sent an email to someone you'll hear a lot more about. Tammy Daybell, Chad's wife of nearly 30
Evil.
years.
He's
and
evil.
the mother of his 5
Look at his
children.
pictures. He is
It
evil.
read in part, Tammy, my name is Charles Vallow. I have some vital and disturbing information regarding your husband and my wife, Lori. Well, surely Charles expected some reaction from Tammy.
I do. I think I said Kylie
Nobody
Rodney. I
knows
meant
who
Gabby
opened that
Petito.
email,
Thank you. So,
but it had been
Teresa.
opened and deleted, and Charles Vallow's email had been blocked.
Here's Nate Eaton of East Idaho News and an NBC News consultant.
So it's possible that Tammy Daybell did see the email and think, what is this? This is a weirdo. I'm going to delete it and block him. Or another theory is that Chad Daybell kept an eye on her email, deleted it, and then blocked the email in
That's
case
what I
Charles
think it
tried to
was.
contact her again.
Long story.
And so Charles received no answer. He was alone and frightened, perhaps, when he told those officers she was calling him a demon with a strange name.
Says, "I'm Nick Snyder. I've taken over Charles's body.
It wasn't Nick, of course, but Ned Schneider.
You're going to be murdered today or tomorrow."
But what did it mean? What were Chad and Lori up to?
And was that why he
We
became
asked
Schneider?
her, and here's what happened.
Are you saying he became Ned Schneider?
Well, that's what he told the police, that you told him he was somebody named
Were
Ned
you there
Schneider.
when he told that to the police?
I have a video
Did you
of it.
hear it?
Yes,
We did, Lori. We did hear it, you moron.
yes. He's on tape saying that to the police. He was terrified that you were going to kill him.
Really, Keith? Is that where you're going to go with this?
She looks so ridiculous. Everybody take a minute, please, and laugh at this woman. If ever anybody needed to be minimized, she does. She's got all of the discovery. She knows that these videos are out there. Why is she acting like people didn't see it? It's so strange.
Well, that's what we're here to talk about.
No, Lori wouldn't talk about Charles as Ned Schneider. But of course, she knew we had her text messages to her brother, Alex Cox, referencing Lori's belief that she could not move through portals to the spirit world while Charles was alive. Apparently, it is tied to Ned being gone, hopefully today or tomorrow. Alex responded, "Have fun and get rid of Ned already." And that, said the police, seemed to be exactly what happened. Because on July 10th, 2019, Alex spent the night at Lori's place. And the next morning, after Charles showed up at the house,
911, where is your emergency? I'm in police in an ambulance. I got in a fight with my brother-in-law and I shot him in self-defense.
Subject that's been shot.
the police in Chandler, Arizona, were wearing body cams when
Come on out this way.
He's yelling at me. Okay.
Chandler Police Department, anybody inside, make some noise.
inside, Charles, age 62, was lying dead on the living room floor.
And there's no furniture in the house, in the living room. Tylee didn't even have a bed. I don't know if JJ did, but Tylee did not. They slept on mattresses on the ground, and there was no furniture in the living room because Lori wanted to dance. She had mirrors installed on the walls so she could dance and watch herself dancing. Can you say narcissism?
Alex claimed the shooting was in self-defense.
Charles is the husband of
And as you can see, he kept touching the back of his head, where he claimed Charles had hit him with a baseball bat.
You'd have had a broken
Another tall
skull
tale.
if Charles had hit you.
Investigators have watched the tape frame by frame, of course.
Yes,
since it
Sassy.
happened.
He's
The lead
killed.
investigator up in Idaho, Ron Ball, spoke for most.
I find it hard to believe that if Charles would have hit Alex in the head with a bat, that Alex would be up walking around with a minor cut on the back of his head.
Absolutely.
You know, Charles, he played minor league baseball. He knew how to swing a bat.
And he went to the gym every
The
day.
rest of what happened was also hard to believe. Though Lori was inside the house and certainly heard the gunshots that killed Charles, she promptly left and took JJ to Burger King for breakfast and then dropped him off at school before returning
Alibi.
to find the police at her house, where she behaved not at all like a shocked widow.
How long have you lived here?
Like 3 weeks.
Oh, geez. Yeah, okay.
That's why the neighbors don't know us.
Gotcha.
Like, hi neighbor, sorry.
What a strange woman.
I'm gonna hurt my sister. Okay.
Alex, Lori, and Tylee were all taken downtown to give statements and largely told the same story, that it was self-defense. No charges were filed. And then, just days later, Lori called the insurance company about Charles's $1 million life insurance policy.
Are you aware of who the primary beneficiary of the policy is? It's me.
Not exactly.
Got that one wrong,
Lori
Lori.
was informed that the beneficiary was, in fact, not her at all.
She found out within a few days that she was not getting any of the money because Charles had changed the beneficiary months earlier to his sister when he realized that Lori's mental health was not 100%.
Chad, she texted him.
Evil.
Quote, "So I talked to the insurance company. He changed it in March. So it was probably Ned before we got rid of him. It's a spear through my heart." There it was. We got rid of him,
Unbelievable.
meaning Charles, and upset that his death by gunshot did not produce an insurance payout. So what would Lori Vallow say about all this?
There's certain things that I can't talk about.
Oh, because your trial is
I'm in
coming.
trial coming up, as you know.
But in the late summer of
sad.
2019, Charles Vallow dead and gone, and nobody was keeping track of Lori when she suddenly picked up Tylee and JJ and they moved to Rexburg, Idaho. So close now to Chad,
Evil, evil, evil.
and the
evil.
unsuspecting Tammy Daybell. about her sanity. Her trial for the murders of JJ, Tylee, and Tammy was delayed for months while she was treated for religious delusions. Now, in Arizona, she's her own lawyer and is either serious or not about this.
Does Jesus visit you often here?
Jesus visits all of us.
Uh-huh.
He's a very good friend of mine.
Uh-huh.
He loves everybody. I'm just his favorite.
You're his favorite.
So, Kresha, she is getting bumper stickers, t-shirts, and caps made that say, Jesus loves you, but I'm his favorite, as a way to taunt Lori. All right. So we're going to have to get in on that when it comes out.
No, I'm just teasing. It was a joke. Can I joke with you, Keith? Can we joke?
Yes, of course you
That's
can.
my bumper sticker. I said, if I ever had a bumper sticker, it would say, Jesus loves you, but I'm his favorite.
Yeah, well, you missed out on that because Kresha's doing it. Ha! We're all going to wear them when you're standing trial for the murder of her uncle.
We were well down the rabbit hole now, as she dodged combatively from one distracting diversion to another, almost like a character in Alice in Wonderland.
I am a talker, so.
Was this the real Lori, or is she playing a character?
Yes, she's playing a character.
Playing me too, or trying to.
Okay.
By early September 2019, 2 months after the shooting death of Charles Vallow in Phoenix, one thing was obvious. The characters in this drama were settling into their roles. Chad Daybell was the prophet, the leader of the group, the man
he's a demon.
transformed into the keeper of the gates of heaven, foretelling the imminent end of the world and dictating with the wave of his hand. Well, she played a sort of nymph, a divine partner for all time, a heavenly honeypot, if you will. Former FBI Supervisory Special Agent Doug Hart worked the case from the start and knows as much about Chad and Lori as just about anyone.
There's a kind of a mutual manipulation that these two had going, right?
Unquestionably, yes. It is absolutely a two-way street. Lori used sex to manipulate Chad, and Chad used his visionary status to manipulate Lori.
There you go.
But
That's how it
moths
played.
and flames can't forever exist 900 miles apart. So, 7 weeks after Charles's death, Lori packed up her kids, JJ and Tylee, and moved them to Rexburg, Idaho, or as she called it, Zion, to an apartment about 10 minutes from the rural property where Chad happened to live with his wife, Tammy. And we should add, there was another migrant to Zion, Lori's brother, Alex Cox. His character has been described as Lori's angel of death.
Yeah, there's a lot of curiosity about the real role that he had with Lori. There's some worrisome signs.
Here in our Jailhouse chat, we did get one confirmation at least, the obvious one, that yes, they had moved to Idaho because Chad was there, and well, that was where the righteous would gather before the end times. But something else had happened too, revealed by text messages and a friend's eyewitness account. Chad had declared that Lori's daughter Tylee had turned dark.
What a nightmare.
Dark in those days.
So
Seemed to have a
sad.
way of foreshadowing death. But as she told her story, Lori fixed on a theme she pursued throughout our talk. Tylee, she said, was sick and in pain due to what she called persistent pancreatitis.
She drove up to Idaho and followed me up there. She had to stay in bed for days, right?
But just a week after they arrived, on Tuesday, September 8th, the family, Lori, Tylee, JJ, and Alex, went to Yellowstone National Park, about a 90-minute drive from Rexburg.
We were going to go see Old Faithful, and she wanted to go. So she got up out of bed. JJ was running around, and she was smiling, and you have seen the pictures, right?
These are the last images ever taken of Tylee. As for little JJ, less than a week later, on September 14th, Lori and JJ went on an outing to a wildlife park called Bear World. And a few days after that, Lori's friend Melanie Gibb went to Idaho, where Lori had some shocking news. JJ had just become a zombie.
The reason why I believe he became a zombie is that he was going to stop Chad and Lori from going forward. They didn't want anybody to stop them. Them from being together, basically, and I think he was in the way.
September 22nd, the very last photo of JJ, ready for bed, in his red pajamas. That night, according to Lori's visitor, bed, in his red pajamas. That night, according to Lori's visitors, JJ was acting up. Melanie Gibbs' husband, David Warwick, saw Alex take JJ outside.
A couple hours later, Alex brings back JJ. And he walked in, he had JJ on, he was asleep on him, and he carried him up to bed.
By morning, JJ was gone and never seen again. And just 1 week later,
there was some crazy stuff that happened. I would hope that has nothing to do with this.
it wasn't over yet. One thing everyone who's met Lori Vallow knows: the woman loves attention, and she is certainly getting it from all over the world.
I hear stuff from my family that's like, oh, somebody does a blog about you every day or something. I'm like, how could they do a blog every day? It's been like 5 years. It's mind-blowing.
Well,
it's mind-blowing.
A lot happened.
Mm-hmm. Tragedies in my life. So the media loves to take tragedies and turn them into crimes, turn them into horrible things. And I had a lot of tragedies in a row, like a domino effect.
Tragic dominoes? Or maybe, as investigators could see as they collected evidence, something far more intentional. Just 3 weeks after Tylee was last seen alive, and a week after JJ's disappearance, a frightened man called 911 in the Phoenix suburb of Gilbert, Arizona.
Someone just shot my window. I was pulling in my house.
The voice on the line belonged to this man, Brandon Boudreau. At the time, he was going through a nasty custody fight with his wife, Melanie Boudreau, the niece of Lori Vallow and her brother, Alex Cox. The police arrived quickly, captured the scene on body cam, and released this blurred video.
Yeah, so I was just pulling in. I noticed a green Jeep Wrangler. They lifted their back window.
Brandon told the officers that the Jeep's back window opened. Somebody, hunkered down where the Jeep's back seat should have been, stuck out a rifle where the missing spare tire should have been, and a bullet whizzed by Brandon's ear, shattered the window of his car.
Okay, so they shot, then what happened?
It hit my window, and instead of turning in, it scared me really bad.
And then, he said, the shooter took off.
I noticed a green...
The Jeep was green or gray, said Brandon later, and had Texas plates. And what do you know? It didn't take long for police to identify it. The Jeep belonged to Tylee.
Okay, so that you understand, Brandon Boudreau was married to Melanie Melanie Pulowski now. But in addition to the family connection to Lori, Brandon and Charles Vallow worked together for the same company. They worked for a company out of Houston. They were selling insurance policies and other like annuities and things like that. And so when all of this, when Brandon got shot at, the kids were missing, then all of the people in the Houston area that worked for this company, they all went into hiding as well. There was fear that they didn't know exactly, they couldn't figure out why they had gone after Brandon And so they thought, well, Charles died. Now, Brandon, maybe it's related to the company. And so it was a pretty tragic thing here in Houston, too.
Her now deceased stepfather, Charles Vallow, bought it for her. And the guy driving the Jeep? Later, Brandon told the police it looked like Lori's brother. Remember, Alex had already killed his sister's husband, Charles, so was he trying to shoot his niece's estranged husband, too?
There was some crazy stuff that happened. I would hope that has nothing to do with this.
A lot of crazy in Brandon's life. His wife had run off to join Lori and Chad and Alex up in Rexburg before launching a custody battle for the couple's 4 children. And as text messages have since revealed, Brandon was very much out of favor with Chad and Lori, who were condemning him as a Gadianton, a criminal in Mormon lore. And then...
And a little side note, Brandon actually was the one that identified JJ's remains. Kay and Larry were there in town, but Larry got really sick. And they were just in such grief, such horror of what was unfolding. And so Larry was very ill. He couldn't get out of bed, and Brandon volunteered to go and do that. This is a very good man. Very good man.
Weeks after a quick divorce, Melanie married a guy she had just met named Ian. So
Another
what would
weak
Melanie and her
man.
new partner Ian tell us about
Another
the attempt on
weak
Brandon's
guy.
life? They sat with us in the spring of 2020.
Useless.
Did you ask Alex if he tried to shoot Brandon?
I did. And he made some jokes about it. And then we both talked about how insane that would be for him across the street with a rifle in broad daylight in a recognizable car. He denied it many times.
That was hardly a surprise, but investigators thought this might be a pertinent point about Brandon and the attempt on his life. Charles's death hadn't paid off in insurance money the way it appeared Chad and Lori hoped it would, which probably meant they needed cash. And Brandon?
There was the belief among them that he had a big life insurance policy. He made good money, he had a good job, so they knew that he had access to money.
And then there was also this fascinating piece of evidence. On the day of the shooting, here was Lori on surveillance video at her rented storage unit, joined by the still very married Chad Daybell. Here, police watched them bring in a tire, just like the one that was missing from Tylee's Jeep when Brandon was shot at. And then they lugged in a folded back seat, which would have created space in the back of the Jeep for a shooter. On the way out, Chad gave Lori a hand in a more intimate sort of way. And then the day after the shooting, Alex showed up at the same storage unit in Idaho. And as you can see, he carried out the tire Chad had put in the day before, and then also carried out the folded back seat. And meanwhile, 2 days after the attempt on Brandon's life, as then FBI agent Doug Hart learned when he combed through text messages, Lori was getting antsy. She and Chad had planned a real date, but had to cancel because...
I mean, you've been to Rexburg. It's a small town, and Chad's, the chances of him being spotted while on a real date with Lori are pretty significant.
Tammy wouldn't like that. Then, the very next day,
Chad sends a message to Lori. Big news about Tammy. Tammy's been possessed by this entity, Viola.
What
I don't
a
know
nightmare.
the timing for, quote, removal, but once it's been affirmed, I don't want to wait.
something would have to be done. Oh, and it would be.
She is a destroyer. Absolutely. Yes, Scotty. Exactly.
Everyone has a time when they live, and everyone has a time when they're going to go back to home, to heaven. So it's kind of the idea of like, you go off to college, learn a bunch of things, have experiences, that's what life is, and then you go home. You have more
As Lori sat and explained.
You know, here's the thing. Lori Vallow has absolutely lost the key to heaven. There will be no going home for Lori. You know what I mean? That I would love to be around when she saw that realization.
And it all seemed so benign, as if she were in a temple wearing robes instead of bright orange and blue handcuffs in a high-security jail. You'd almost forget what she was here for. Things like this.
Fremont County Sheriff's Office. Hi, I need to report something.
On October 9th, 2019, 1 week after police suspected Lori's brother Alex Cox tried to kill her nephew in suburban Phoenix.
Someone just shot my window.
And 3 months after Alex did kill Lori's husband, Charles.
I got in a fight with my brother-in-law and I shot him in self-defense.
A 911 call came into an Idaho sheriff's office.
Okay, and what is your name? My name is Tammy Daybell.
Tammy Daybell, calling on a cold autumn night to report that when she returned late that evening from a church event, a man with a gun confronted her outside the home she shared with Chad Daybell.
What was he wearing? He was all dressed in black and he had a ski mask on. I pulled up into our driveway and I was getting stuff out of the back seat of my car and suddenly he was there and he had a paintball gun and he was and like he was going to shoot at me. So I yelled for my husband and then he took off running around the back of my house.
Who was that masked man? The FBI ran a cell phone geolocation search, which revealed that Alex was near, and then his phone was shut off just at the time of the attempted shooting.
He was, had a rifle and was shooting at me, so. But nothing came out of the gun either.
It was months later when Detective Ball sifted through Alex's digital trail and concluded that what Tammy Daybell thought was a paintball gun was not that at all. That paintball gun incident, what was that really in your mind?
I think that was attempted assassination of Tammy that was planned out by Lori, Chad, and Alex.
And after the failed attempt, said investigators, Alex went on an internet search for AR-15 cold weather operation. So was it the cold weather that saved Tammy Daybell that time? Maybe. Added to this, Tammy didn't park in her usual spot.
And so when Tammy Daybell pulled in the driveway she normally didn't park in, it likely threw Alex off. He had to run further than he would have, and it could have shaken that gun. Thus, the gun misfired or didn't fire at all.
And she may have heard like some sort of semi-pop and thought it was paintball.
Exactly.
So, plan A having failed, apparently it was time for plan B. 10 days later.
911, where's your emergency?
We just found my mom. She's on the ground frozen, or she's dead. I'm Chad, the husband. She's clearly dead. We don't
so
know.
Sorry.
Chad and his son called to report that Tammy had died in her sleep.
Okay, Chad, I'm going to get somebody up to you right now.
Okay.
Later that morning, Chad notified Tammy's sister, Sam.
I got a phone call from Chad telling me that she had passed away in her sleep.
How do you process something like that?
You don't. Because I had just seen her. And it just didn't
She was fine.
It didn't feel real. Didn't feel right.
What did Chad say happened?
That she'd been sick and had a coughing fit and passed away. It was a really hard moment.
Tammy was buried without delay in her hometown in Utah. There was no autopsy. Chad's choice, the sheriff said, because back then it just didn't seem suspicious. It was later, when the story began to emerge, that they exhumed Tammy's body, and the ME found bruises on her arms as if she were held down, and the cause of death was asphyxiation. Just what lead investigator Ball suspected.
I don't think I'll ever forget that moment when he said, I have the results of Tammy's autopsy. They were ruling it a homicide. And, we all knew it.
And when looking for suspects, once again, detectives did not have to look far. When Tammy did die, did the evidence show that Alex was there?
No, close by. It's my belief that Chad went and picked him up and brought him back to the house, and that the two of them did that together, and then Chad took him back to where his car was parked.
But that was a two-person crime?
I don't see how you could do it otherwise.
Later at Chad's trial, experts testified it would have been difficult for one person to complete the task. That is, difficult for Alex without Chad's help.
I'm trying.
But sitting here with me, Lori simply dismissed all that. No foul play at all, she said. Perfectly innocent.
Tammy died of natural causes. Tammy knows the truth. I love her and she loves me. We've been friends for eternities.
That is
Yes,
an
and
abomination.
nowadays, Tammy comes to visit her in jail, said Lori. Anyway, the funerals weren't over. Another one coming soon.
I remember a sense of relief. Like, okay, the guy who was in charge of this stuff is gone.
But first, it was time for a wedding.
One at a time. Because I thought we were going to be friends.
Well, yeah, I think we are, aren't we?
I'm friends with everybody. I love everybody.
Yeah.
I'm all about the love.
We had raised the subject of love in our conversation with convicted killer Lori Vallow. Because, well, people do lie about love and death and what happened when. But what's the title of that old song? Facts don't. So, facts are what we spoke of now. Our questions took us back to November 5th, 2019, exactly 17 days after Chad Daybell's wife Tammy was murdered in her own bed. There was a wedding 3,000 miles away from Idaho on the island of Kauai. The happy couple? Who else? Chad and Lori, now Daybell.
What was the relationship with Chad all about anyway?
My husband?
Yeah.
My
By
husband
the
that
way,
I've been
everybody-
married to for 5
Yeah,
years?
Sure. And everybody calls you Lori Vallow. Does that bother you?
It doesn't bother me, but I'm Lori Daybell.
It was often difficult to keep Lori on point. But on this subject, the wedding and preparations for it, she seemed willing to talk specifics. We had to ask because, again, facts. The evidence clearly shows that Lori searched for wedding dresses and rings and then bought a malachite gemstone ring on October 2nd, 2019. The ring was delivered to her 5 days later, October 7th. But there was a hitch. At the time, Chad's wife Tammy was as alive as a person can be, and quite unaware of the fate that awaited her. She was murdered on October 19th, 2 weeks after Lori's wedding ring was delivered. In journalistic terms, this would be called a gotcha.
And you bought the wedding rings.
That is
Before.
an untrue statement. You don't know what you're talking about on that one.
It's online. The
Where-
purchase is there. And then we see the video of those very rings on your fingers and that ceremony on the
Okay,
beach.
those rings were not initially bought for us. So get your facts straight, Keith,
Who were they
before
bought
you
for?
start making accusations. See, you don't know.
Who were they
You
bought
don't have
for?
any idea because you've heard all these rumors.
You're going to tell me who they were bought for.
Rumor has it
Who were they bought for, if not you?
Alex and Zulema initially.
That's Lori's brother, Alex Cox, and the woman he would later marry, Zulema Pastinas. Lori's version? After buying the rings and dress for Zulema, Lori and Chad borrowed them.
We used them in our ceremony and then they were given back to Alex.
The problem with that story? Well, investigators have many. First, former FBI Supervisory Special Agent Doug Hart, who examined tens of thousands of items from Lori's electronic devices.
We certainly don't see any communications between Lori and Zulema, which we would have seen, saying, hey, I'm shopping for a dress for you, or I found this wonderful wedding ring for you. So that is conspicuously absent.
Former lead detective Ron Ball.
Come on. It's Lori trying to direct the details the way she wants them directed. Those rings were for her and Chad.
So, anyway, Chad and Lori, happy honeymooners after their island wedding and also $430,000 richer thanks to life insurance policies that paid upon Tammy's death, returned to Lori's apartment in Rexburg, Idaho, where, as it just so happened, Police Detective Ray Hermosillo had just received a call from Gilbert, Arizona. Detectives there were investigating an attempted murder.
Okay, so they shot, then what happened?
It hit my window.
Remember? That shot was fired from a Jeep at Brandon Boudreau, the estranged husband of Lori's niece. And the Jeep, detectives discovered, was registered to Charles Vallow, whose widow, Lori, records revealed, had moved from Arizona to Rexburg. So what did they want you to do?
They wanted me to do some intermittent surveillance, kind of watch the place.
The place was Lori's apartment complex, where she and Chad and Alex and Lori's niece Melanie, a.k.a. Brandon's estranged wife, had all set up shop. While keeping watch, Detective Hermosillo read in on Alex Cox, who was suspected of trying to kill Brandon and who, a few months earlier, did kill Lori's fourth husband, Charles Vallow. So what are you thinking about him at this point?
He's kind of a dangerous dude, right?
At the same time, Hermosillo and his lieutenant, Ron Ball, started hearing even more chatter about Chad and Lori. Like how Chad's first wife, Tammy, had suddenly died just a few weeks before.
The common denominator in this whole thing is Lori.
And it was at this point, when police from Arizona traveled to Idaho to seize that Jeep, that investigators started to focus on the question, where are the children?
They asked about JJ.
JJ, as in JJ Vallow, Lori's 7-year-old autistic adopted son, who, along with his sister Tylee, at this point had not been seen for weeks. What did they want to know about him?
They just asked through our surveillance if we had seen a little boy outside playing outside the residence, and we told him we hadn't. He said, okay, well, his grandma hasn't seen him for a while, and I may need your assistance to go knock on Lori's door and see if JJ's with Lori.
So on November 26th, 2019, the detective did just that. But at Lori's front door, there was no answer.
We went around the back, and that's where I finally met Alex and Chad for the first time.
What were they doing? Just hanging outside the back door?
They were unloading a pickup truck. I asked Alex where JJ was at. You know, he kind of looked over at Chad. Chad looked back at Alex. And then he said, I think he's with his grandma in Louisiana.
The detective felt a weird vibe from Alex. What was he like?
Nervous, especially when I told him that that was unlikely because grandma in Louisiana was the one that called in the welfare check. He gave me that 1,000-yard stare. And based on his reaction, I knew there was probably something more going on.
Something more, all right. The detective asked for Lori's phone number.
Alex said he didn't have it.
Come on.
Yeah.
So, did Chad have Lori's number?
He said he didn't know Lori's number.
He was married to her, but he didn't know her number.
He didn't know that I knew he was married to her, right?
Oh, no, of course not. Yeah.
I asked him again for her phone number, and he finally gave it to me. But at that point, I knew something was up for sure.
Perhaps few detectives in the history of law enforcement have ever been more right. Something was up, indeed. The looming collapse of Chad and Lori's house of cards. Of course I want to hear it.
I don't think you do.
But I want to hear the truth about all kinds of things. Time and again during our interview, Lori assured us that while others lie about her, she was telling us the absolute truth.
I'm trying to give you the truth and you really don't want to hear it. So you want the truth that you already think you know. I'm the person it happened with. I'm the only one who knows the truth. And I'm trying to give it, but if you don't want to hear it, I will be happy to be quiet.
Of course, it would have been easier to believe that were it not for all the lies she has told before. Like, well, for example, this body cam video of very poor quality showing then Detective Ron Ball and a colleague approaching Lori's apartment in Rexburg. This was just minutes after Detective Hermosillo had that strange encounter with Alex and Chad in the alley.
Lori, I'm Lieutenant Ball, Police Department. How are you? You got me?
This time, Lori answered the door, and, as if she had a choice, welcomed detectives inside. Sort of.
This is a big mess.
From the start, Lori lied like a sidewalk when faced with questions about her 7-year-old adopted son.
So JJ would be where?
He's in Arizona.
Who's he with in Arizona?
He's with one of my friends in Arizona.
JJ was not, of course, with a friend. More on that in a minute. But as detectives asked more questions, Lori acted as if she had no clue. What could possibly be attracting so much attention from law enforcement?
What is all this?
We're a little
What is it?
concerned.
Right.
Because, well, the officers who were here earlier were checking, and they got a bad vibe that like something was going on here because nobody knew anything about a child. They weren't talking.
It's because a lot of stuff that's gone on. If you want to know, it's a lot of stuff. So.
Well, that's why we're concerned, because it just was kind of weird.
It is very weird. I've had to move around a lot. One of my brothers is trying to kill me.
Kill her for life insurance money, she said. Wasn't true, of course. Projection, perhaps?
Yes.
Lori herself, remember, tried to claim Charles's life insurance after Alex killed him. She went on then about why things appeared a bit dodgy.
So I don't tell people the truth about where we are and what we're doing because of those reasons. So I look like a suspect, but I am a good person.
Then Detective Ball got the idea to ask her about those two guys in the alley. Who were they anyway?
My brother and his friend, probably. He's been moving.
Lori's brother, Alex, and friend, Chad Daybell.
Evil.
At this point, we knew that they were married. She didn't want to get into too much of a conversation about Chad for obvious reasons at this point.
Before long, the detectives left.
Okay, get out of here.
And as soon as they did, Chad and Lori got busy. Calls were made. To Melanie Gibb in Arizona, for one. The friend Lori had just told police JJ was staying with.
I get the.
Who remembers how long was it between the time that Melanie Gibb lied and said that what did she say? She said that she had JJ, but she didn't have him anymore, right? And then she called the cops and said, no, I lied. Does anybody remember? I'll have to go into my notes and find it. I can't remember. I want to say maybe it was like 3 weeks. It was a long time. She's not off the hook. It was a very long time before she owned up. Anybody remember? Three weeks. There you go. Thank you, Seclusion.
This phone call out of the blue. And Chad said, "Hey, Melanie, I just want to let you know that the Rexburg police are going to call. Don't pick up."
How did he seem? Calm?
No, nervous.
As her head spun, there was a second call.
Lori calls and says, "Hey, everything's fine. Oh, I told them that JJ was with you." It's like a bomb drops on you. What do? You just are in shock a little bit.
You tell the truth,
Was
lady.
that the moment this all changed for you? The bottom fell out?
Absolutely. I can't even begin to tell you how horrible that moment was for me.
Yeah, I bet.
By these people?
Oh, yeah.
No.
They try to use me as their way of escape.
No.
Melanie quickly got her head on straight, and when police called to verify Lori's story,
she said that she had JJ at one point, but he was back in Idaho with Lori.
Right. At that point, did you think something bad had happened to JJ?
Not at that point. I knew something was up. At that point, we were bound and determined to find JJ.
And the next morning, when police showed up again at Lori's apartment to execute a search warrant,
we went over there and everybody was gone. There wasn't a soul in that place. There was furniture, food in the pantry, food in the fridge. It looked like they just pretty much walked out.
you must certainly have hit a nerve with your questions, or they just disappear afterwards.
And I think that those questions that were there asking about the kids, absolutely, it triggered them to flee response, and they know that we're hot after them.
What started as surveillance on a Jeep had certainly taken a turn. The chase was on.
I never spank my children.
Fine.
I don't yell at my children. I only use love and logic with my children, right? I want to build them up. I want to help them because of what I learned in heaven.
Oh, she's so
As
full
Lori
of it.
Vallow continued to explain the finer points of parenting, it was not lost on us that more than 5 years ago she had gone on the run when detectives asked her one simple question to which every parent of a 7-year-old child should have an answer. Where's your child? Where was JJ? For that matter, where was his sister, 16-year-old Tylee? When Lori and Chad Daybell disappeared from their apartment in Rexburg, Idaho that day in November 2019 and returned to Hawaii, did they understand how quickly the law would catch up to them? They couldn't have known, really, that within 24 hours, the FBI had been called in. Or that investigators would soon contact her son, Colby.
I called her because I was freaking out, and I said, the 2 detectives are looking for Tylee and JJ. What is going on? She said, I got it. I'll take care of it. I love you. Have a great day, something like that.
Detectives in Idaho entered JJ's name into a database of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
Through our investigation up to that point, we learned nobody had seen Tylee either. So we also added Tylee to the missing persons report.
And when they asked that great detective, the public, for help?
Tonight, 2 Arizona kids are missing after vanishing without a trace.
After going public, we started receiving tips
That
on
was
where
crazy.
Chad and Lori could be. And some of those tips came from Hawaii.
Oh, enough to make you think that's where they are?
We were able to confirm that through cell phone data.
And Nate jumped on an
Morning, Chad.
airplane to
Yeah.
go save the day.
But were the children with them? Were they being kept somewhere else? Detective Ray Hermosillo didn't know what to think.
You kind of wondered in the back of your head, are these kids okay? Are they stored in a bunker somewhere for crazy religious beliefs?
And then, in the middle of all those questions, a brand new shock.
Okay, what is your emergency?
Something happened to Lori's brother, Alex Cox, her angel of death. Something bad. He'd collapsed in an apartment in Gilbert, Arizona. Alex was rushed to a hospital, but it was no good. Later, police interviewed the woman Alex had married just 2 weeks before, Zulema Pastinas.
I remember them taking us to the hospital, and I don't remember much of what happened between that and until the time that they brought me back to the room for me to turn off the machines. And I remember somebody came saying that I couldn't touch him anymore, that he was considered a crime scene, and that I needed to leave.
It will surprise no one there was considerable suspicion early on of foul play.
I remember a sense of relief. Like, okay, the guy who was in charge of this stuff is gone. But then it was immediate with, now we have another body. It was so overwhelming, Keith. We didn't know what to think.
And here is the designated killer apparently killed, or at least dead. And you didn't know why at that point, right?
Didn't know why at that point.
And remember, he got a blessing from Chad just that day or the day before that he died. Seems like every one of these people, when they die, there's a blessing that comes first.
But when the autopsy was done, the ME concluded that the death of Alex Cox was no crime at all. Alex Cox had been killed by blood clots in his lungs. He was 51 years old.
I would like to have been able to arrest him and charge him for the crimes that he committed. I think he got out of this world too easy.
Yep.
Meanwhile, detectives and special agents decided enough was enough. They'd patiently worked the case for 8 weeks. It was time to confront Lori and Chad in Hawaii. And it didn't take long for law enforcement to find them.
And you're going to get
Here
to
they
see,
were, sitting
look
by
at,
their hotel pool.
look at the weak little pud knocker. He's grinning again because he doesn't know what else to do when he gets nervous. But watch how in control Lori is. Lori is the boss. He is just support. Whatever Lori says, that's what happens. So watch this. She's fully in control. He's timidly on the sideline.
On a warm, sunny day in January 2020.
This is all you can, sir.
What they gave her was a court order demanding she produce JJ and Tylee within 5 days. The next day, the police pulled them over, searched their car, seized their car, and thus forced them to walk a gauntlet of reporters back to their hotel. Reporters including our NBC News consultant, Nate Eaton.
Did you do something to your children? Are your children still alive? Are you guys innocent of any crimes? Have you committed any crimes?
Good
But
work,
4
Nate.
weeks later, Lori still hadn't produced the children, and so she was arrested and flown back to Idaho.
Welcome back, Lori. Where are your kids?
There's Nate again.
Her first court appearance filled the room, the hallways, the streets outside with the curious citizens of Rexburg. But she still wouldn't answer the question. Where are those kids?
I remember walking out of the court at that time and talking with some guys. I'm like, these kids, they're not alive.
Yeah.
We're now looking for bodies.
Indeed, they were. Hundreds of agents and officers had been working the case in multiple states for months, combing through every electronic device ever attached to Lori, Chad, Alex, and the others.
It had to be done manually.
And in the end, the search for the children would come down to one unlikely text message containing one odd word.
You can't do a keyword search. And if we did a keyword search, raccoon certainly wouldn't have been a keyword that we were looking for.
She's crying.
Tylee's very smart, very sassy. She knows how to push your buttons. She knows what to say.
Gotcha.
I was able to be very peaceful with Tylee. I was able to be patient with Tylee because I watched her suffer so much.
Now, Colby Ryan says that this is categorically untrue, that she was never peaceful with Tylee and that they had a very combative type of relationship. Hey, Georgie girl, thank you so much for being a member. I appreciate that.
Okay. And I knew she was not going to live forever because you know that you can die of pancreatitis anytime you have it.
Of course, yes. As I listened patiently to Lori Vallow's long and winding discourse about her daughter Tylee, my mind kept going to those strange days in the spring of 2020 when details emerged about the search for Tylee and JJ. Over the previous 6 months, thousands of man-hours had gone into the investigation. Searches of Google, Amazon, Facebook accounts, phone calls, text messages, geolocations for Lori, Chad, and Alex.
Just to give you
I'm really glad you're here, Georgie girl. Thank you.
an idea, one of the phones had 54,000 text messages in it.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's days and weeks and months of just hard, detailed, investigative work.
And all that work painted a picture, confirming the September 8th, 2019 trip to Yellowstone and revealing that Tylee must have been killed when they returned home that very night.
We have geolocation that Alex was in Lori's residence the night we believe Tylee was killed, early morning hours.
And then a sharp-eyed FBI analyst found the text that broke the case. It was sent later that same morning, 10:53 a.m., from Chad to his wife, Tammy.
So
It
heartbreaking.
read, quote, "Well, I've had an interesting morning. I felt I should burn all of the limb debris by the fire pit before it got too soaked by the coming storms. While I did so, I spotted a big raccoon along the fence. I hurried and got my gun, and he was still walking along.
Evil
I got close
at its
enough
core.
that one shot did the trick. He is now in our pet cemetery.
Nasty.
Fun times." End
Nasty.
quote.
Nasty
What
asshole.
that text message did for us is that it represented a communication from Chad Daybell to his wife Tammy to explain why he was burning and digging on the property.
I also think that it was, I think he had to make up a lie in case one of the neighbors, his brother or sister-in-law, if one of the neighbors heard the gunshot. I think he had to, I think that's why he did it as well.
On that date.
When in fact investigators felt sure they'd been burning and burying Tylee.
And ultimately, we're able to piece all of these critical things together into an affidavit and seek a search warrant for the property.
The date was June 9th, 2020, 9 months since the kids disappeared. Ron Ball, Ray Hermosillo, and their teams drove out to Chad's property, a nearly 4-acre lot a few miles from Rexburg. They woke up Chad and served him with a search warrant.
And I said, you know what? We're going to see if these kids are here. Based on his expression when he's sitting there reading that search warrant, there's going to be some type of change of behavior.
Was there?
No. And I just remember looking at Ron like, are we in the wrong spot again?
The detective may have felt differently if he'd heard the tension in Chad's voice when Lori called him from jail that same morning.
No.
Weak.
Are you okay?
So they're searching.
Weak HUD knocker.
Chad was right to be worried.
Useless.
The FBI's evidence response team zeroed in on 2 places where Alex's cell phone spent time hours after Tylee and JJ disappeared. Under a tree, searchers soon found ground that had clearly been disturbed.
There's about maybe a 4x2 section that didn't fit.
Evidence techs removed a layer of white rocks.
There was some boards underneath the white rocks. And as soon as those boards were removed, you can see the difference in soil. And you could see a round piece of plastic. And then they cut into that black plastic, and then you could see brown human hair.
That whole experience had to be just, I mean, that lives with you even now, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So sad.
It was, of course, the body of 7-year-old J.J. Vallow, still dressed in the red pajamas he was last seen in, a plastic bag over his head, duct tape over his mouth. The ME said he'd been asphyxiated.
That was a very emotional moment.
Did a number on you.
Yeah, those are memories that, don't go away.
They found Tylee 25 or 30 yards away. It was Tylee who was burned, her body dismembered. Chad, who'd been watching all this, suddenly got in his car, started driving away.
Because he's
So
weak.
they got chasing down the road just a little ways, and he pulled over, and they went and pulled him out of the car, detained him.
So titty baby.
So I asked, do you want me to tell your kids anything? And he says, no, I already told him I'd probably be going to jail today.
God.
I went, oh, well,
Jerk.
you're right.
Yeah.
They put Chad and Lori in separate jails and gave them separate trials. Chad for 3 counts of murder, for killing Tammy, JJ, and Tylee, and for several counts of conspiracy to murder and insurance fraud. Lori faced 2 counts of first-degree murder, JJ and Tylee, conspiracy to murder Tammy, and grand theft. Madison County Prosecuting Attorney Rob Wood.
Our theme was, this is about money, sex, and power. There were all these tangential religious issues, but it really was about money and sex and trying to control people. People who were in the way that they called obstacles, they got rid of them and profited from that.
The defendant would please rise.
Both Chad and Lori were convicted on all counts.
Guilty. Guilty. Guilty.
How involved do you think Lori was in the deaths of her own children?
I think the evidence suggests she was involved at some level. JJ's body showed signs of a struggle, and looking at how he was found, I think it suggests that more than one person was involved.
Yeah.
And Tylee, I would tend to think it was probably a 2-person thing.
The jury sentenced Chad Daybell to death.
The defendant would be sentenced to death on those counts.
And Lori?
Jesus knows me. And Jesus understands me.
Before her sentence,
Remember, her sister said that, and Melanie Gibbs said that. That's one of Lori's manipulative phrases, right? That's how she gets people to accept her lies. You know me. You know me. I wouldn't do that, even though she did do that.
sentencing to life imprisonment, she said something rather curious.
Accidental deaths happen. Suicides happen. Fatal side effects from medications happen.
What on earth was she talking about? Her surviving son wanted to know. And so did we. When we met with Lori Vallow Daybell in jail, we were given 90 minutes to speak to her. 90 minutes, no more. She seemed determined to fill the time with tales about Tylee. She claimed that giving birth to Tylee actually killed her. Briefly, sent them both straight to heaven. Before.
See, there's an enormous amount of psychodynamic stuff, right? The frustration with Tylee, the combative nature that they had in life, and yet she seems to somehow blame Tylee for everything, including her own misery.
Or Jesus asked her to return to life on earth.
Isn't that what we know, though, about people with narcissistic personality disorder, that there will have to be a scapegoat, someone that the narcissist can blame when the narcissist does things that are less than, that are outside the mask, then they have to have someone to blame it on. And I think that was Tylee.
When I saw Tylee in heaven,
and then
before she was born, she knew she was going to come have all these difficult things, and she was still giddy with excitement about.
So don't you worry about Tylee. Don't you hate me because Tylee suffered. Tylee knew she was going to suffer. She welcomed it. She wanted it. And that was her choice to come down here on earth and suffer. So don't you dare hold me responsible. That's the bullshit you're getting right now.
Coming to earth and fulfilling her mission.
Meanwhile, Lori dodged questions about the wreckage in her own life.
We have Tylee, we have
Yes.
JJ,
Yes.
we have Chad's wife, we have the attempted murder on Brandon, we have, there's a lot of
to my
mayhem.
life. There's a lot to my life.
Sure.
If you want to hear the actual explanations, I'm here.
There's a big,
but it
long
doesn't
explanation.
sound like you really want a lot
I
of the
do,
actual,
but I don't have all week to hear all these explanations.
Well, it's going to take a long time, so it's probably going to take more than one session.
Manipulation. She's saying, well, I guess we're going to have to do another interview. If you really want to know these things, we got to have another interview. See, he's been asking for it the whole 90 minutes, and she is like talking around it because she thinks she's going to get her another interview.
The sheriff's office told us was not a possibility. This visit with Lori, they said, was a one-time thing. It turned out, by the way, that we weren't the only ones searching for answers from Lori. And perhaps no one on earth has been more affected by her crimes than this man, her son, Colby.
I've been working in therapy on unpacking a lifetime worth of stuff. I mean, it's an ongoing process.
In the past half-decade, Colby has lost his brother, his sister, his stepfather, Charles, the most stable male figure in his life, his uncle, Alex, and, of course, his imprisoned mother.
And I do think that it's safe to say, or respectful to say, that I get the impression, I'm speculating here, I get the impression that Lori really, really loved Colby, that Colby could do no wrong, and that she saw herself what she believed, what she wanted herself to be, that she believed that Colby was an embodiment of that, because he was a very handsome kid and confident and smart and all the things that she wished that she were, right? So the dynamics are all here. It's really
How did
sad.
it change the way you view the world?
I guess I always was like a very positive, see the best in people kind of person.
Mhm.
And then I watched someone that I knew my entire life, do what she did, and it just changed the way I view people.
And all the crazy.
And the fact that she would, after all the destruction that she wrought, that she would even attempt to manipulate him or mislead him, in the end, she still didn't love him, right? She loved herself, believing that this wonderful, handsome, smart young man, she had created that. But she didn't really. She didn't. It was all just this one big giant game that she just tried to convince herself that she was okay, and all the while behind the mask she knows damn well she's not okay. And I slowed the camera down a couple of times to show you that look of shame. It's there. She doesn't believe her own nonsense.
Craziness and death.
There's just no way to like explain to anybody what it's like to go from, let's call it normal life, to something this big happening. And then I have to deal with the complexity that that's my mom, that's someone that I don't even recognize anymore.
There's a microscope on your life too. I mean,
yeah.
Do you get the feeling of being watched as you progress through life?
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the thing I think I finally somewhat embraced, is people are going to have questions.
Welcome to the Scar Wars podcast.
And so in the past year, Colby has decided to use his YouTube channel, he calls it Scar Wars, to help with his own healing. And then a few months ago, Colby, who hadn't spoken to his mom in more than 4 years, began to worry about this.
I thought, well, what if she passes away, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think asking myself that question kind of brought me to a point of, you know what, if I ask her for an interview,
mm-hmm.
maybe I can at least keep myself emotionally in check while I ask the biggest questions I've always had.
And the questions help him heal, because even in her answers, it's so easy to discern the manipulation and the lies. He doesn't get a single satisfying answer. He doesn't get a single answer that matches the facts and what he knows already to be true. And so the interview that he does, even though he doesn't push back, there's not a lot of arguing and all that kind of stuff, that it's healing for him. It's healing for him because it's almost like he gets the permission to close the door on her, to realize that the mom that he thought that he had, that she no longer exists. And my guess would be is that he's now grappling with the question of, did she ever exist? Right? So, but he is doing an important service to other people that grew up in a narcissistic family, whether they were the golden child or they were the black sheep. To accept that perhaps you had parents that just simply could not love you because they were so broken and couldn't see past their own nose, and that it's okay to say goodbye to them. You don't, if they're that detached and unable to show you love and acceptance, or at least to even interact with you on an authentic level, then there's nothing that says that you should be, doomed to purgatory, spending 30 years waiting for your mom to finally approve of you or love you. That's a life sentence. It's not something that you have any control over. And so sometimes, depending on how harsh the circumstances are, it's all right if you set some boundaries and put some distance between you and that parent that just will only take from you and never give back.
Not good to me. I don't know if you can hear me very well.
Yeah, I can hear you pretty good.
And so 5 months ago, Lori called Colby from jail, and it gave him the chance to ask her how Tylee and JJ really died.
I wanted to talk to you so I could hear your questions and answer your questions, because you are the only person besides me on this whole earth who really loved both of them.
Manipulation.
But then Lori spun a story, which investigators have told us simply could not have happened based on the evidence. It was evening, she told Colby, and she asked Tylee to put JJ to bed.
What if Tylee holding JJ down for too long, trying to get him to not scream and be loud in the apartment, which she was always upset about? And what if she held him down too long and realized afterwards what she had done?
Her implication was perfectly obvious. Tylee smothered JJ, saw he was dead, and then took her own life in a fit of remorse. It was hours later, said Lori, when she walked in and found their two bodies. Quite a story. Colby was not having it.
You're telling me Tylee took JJ's life, then took her own life, and then someone cremated her by dismembering her and burning her and throwing her in a pet cemetery, and then somebody bound JJ, put him in a trash bag, and threw him in the backyard.
Hey, this was therapeutic.
What I'm saying is I wasn't aware what happened to them after I left that scene.
So you're saying someone else took care of the situation?
Yes.
Okay.
Someone else? Could only mean Alex and or Chad.
Exactly,
And
Rosebud.
somehow it's all Tylee's fault.
Yeah, it must be nice and easy to blame my dead little sister for everything.
Right.
Must be really convenient for her.
Did you believe any of that stuff?
No,
Absolutely not.
Absolutely.
All BS.
That's all lies. None of it ever added up.
And so Colby made the decision to tell his mom his truth.
This situation does put us at odds. And I can't sit here and say that I agree with you. I can't even really understand where this side's coming from. I don't wish pain or anything on you. I have no malice towards you. Zero. Then I do 100% forgive you. I forgive you. But you and I can't even be a part of each other's lives because I don't feel like I know you anymore.
This is my mission, and my mission will be revealed to everybody at some point, and including you. And at that time, I just want you to know, I'm not going to say I told you so. I'm just going to say I love you.
Oh,
And
God,
after,
this woman.
Colby spoke directly to his viewers.
My sister did not kill my brother. She didn't. Put it on her. It's so unfair. It's so unfair to Tylee. She would never do that.
You're asking me questions.
Did she understand what she was doing to her only surviving son?
No, all she could think about was just keeping her mask on so no one would ever know just how useless she truly is. She knows she's useless. She knows she's evil. She knows. But her life, her ability to continue to live is dependent upon other people believing the mask. And she did not give one thought to Colby when she was telling that terrible lie. It was only about self-preservation. It's always self-preservation.
Would she finally face up to what she did to the others?
Were you there the night that Tylee died? Were you there the night that JJ died?
Attitude.
Is that not what you wanted to hear?
Attitude here
You're calling me a babbler?
and here.
Do you want to take a break?
I mean,
As we neared the end of our jailhouse interview with Lori Vallow, I was struck by the contrast.
I think that's kind of the place I'm at now. It's just acceptance. Just full acceptance of the situation.
Son Colby, reflective, anguished, a serious man.
The way that my sister was treated was with hate.
Yes,
That's
it
not even
was.
human to do what they did to her.
It was hate.
After.
And Lori? Not quite sure what this was.
You want to go on later and say, Lori told me this in your ominous voice, but really this is what happened. Are you going to do that to me, Keith?
ominous voice?
Yeah.
Maybe that one.
Yes. That's the exact voice that I'm talking about.
Such an evil
Lori
creature.
danced, verbally that is, danced away from questions she seemed determined to avoid. She tried to fill our allotted 90 minutes with a long and rambling story about Tylee, clearly leading up to the same one she told son Colby. Well, we tried to finally pin her down on the established facts that had convicted her of multiple counts of murder.
Why did Chad label your children dark and then,
That is all.
call them zombies? You're saying that didn't happen?
Did you hear him say that?
Well, no, but others
Golly.
did.
You know what, Lori? Have
Oh,
you
I
ever
see.
seen $1 million? Okay, you saying that $1 million doesn't exist?
I see. But that would be a pattern that he would label people dark and then they would either die or somebody would have an attempt on their life.
No,
And
that's the narrative that you've been running.
The evidence showed that Tylee was killed the night they returned from Yellowstone, September 8th, 2019. And JJ was killed 14 days later.
No, that's not accurate.
Lori, they have GPS positioning. That is right.
Sorry, it's not the truth. You asked me for the truth. You're asking me personally, the only person on the earth who really knows, and you're shaking your head no.
And believe it or not, She just used the death of her children, the fact that she is a murderer, she just used it for narcissistic supply. I'm the only person that knows. I'm the only person that was there. And you won't even let me tell you what happened. No, there was something else there. Cell phones attached to satellites.
That didn't happen.
Did I shake my head?
Yeah, you're shaking your head a little bit.
No, I'm just
You're like
looking at
this.
you. The evidence presented at Lori's Idaho murder trial left her jury in no doubt whatsoever. I'm quoting what the court said about you and Chad, that
Okay,
you
go ahead and quote it.
actually conspired to kill these people.
And
were you there when
I was falsely accused? I was falsely
Let me ask you
convicted,
directly.
and I will be exonerated.
All right, fine. Were you there the night that Tylee died? Were you there the night that JJ died?
Was I
Was
where?
Alex in these places when
Word
they died?
games.
In the place where they died. Were you there?
What place was that?
Did you watch?
What place was that?
Did
Do you have any
I'm
idea?
asking.
Well,
She thinks she's smarter. She's smug. You are witnessing narcissism in the flesh. This is the diagnostic criterion.
the only one that knows. Do you know? You're pretending like you know.
It doesn't matter. I'm not pretending I know. I'm asking you a question. Did you watch your children die?
That's a really sad question.
It's a terrible question, and it's one I hate to have to ask. But I mean, we've been talking about all of
I
these.
was not there, as you know. I told Colby.
His response, remember? Did you believe any of that stuff?
Absolutely not.
But for Lori, it's as if the evidence, the trial, the conviction don't exist at all.
You did not kill a soul.
Absolutely
You didn't
not.
participate in killing a soul.
No.
You didn't conspire to kill a soul.
Correct.
You didn't do any of those things you've been convicted of doing.
Correct.
What to make of Lori? Soon she will have to enter a whole new world. Not heaven, but her upcoming trial.
I have 2 motions that I'd like to file with the court today.
All right.
She will be representing herself as she is tried for the murder of her husband, Charles. She's pleaded not guilty, and not guilty of conspiring to murder her nephew, Brandon.
What's it like acting as your own lawyer?
It's great, actually.
Real smile. Look at her eyes. Narcissistic supply. She means that. She loves pretending to be an attorney. She loves pretending to be in a position of authority, being able to tell other people to do things for her.
It's a difficult thing to do. You have to have your arguments, you know. I think this judge in particular has been pretty patient in letting people get their whole argument out.
I can see where he might need to be.
Yeah.
It will certainly give her a bigger slice of the limelight she seems to crave. And, she assured me, will get her ever closer to the final result she fully expects. She and Chad will go free.
Chad was convicted and he's on death row now.
I understand that, yeah.
But
They have some
how
fascinating
could you
stories.
possibly think that Chad would be exonerated
The
after
same
what
way-
happened?
The same way I will be exonerated. We will both be exonerated in the future.
Because,
I have seen things in the future that Jesus showed me when I was in heaven, and we were not in jail, and we were not in prison, and they were still in the future from now.
Her own little world? Well, something like that. Outside in the real world, her only surviving son works hard to build a good life, in spite of all of it.
I felt really guilty for even being the only one that didn't get killed, I guess, for a long time. But yeah, I mean, you know, you try to put a brave face on, try to be there for your kids. You try to make it about them, but there's always a loneliness there.
Well, his mother dances and dodges his questions and ours.
And you're very good at dancing.
And we should do a little jig.
Oh, Lord,
Already
no.
done a mental jig with your stories.
See, she
After I
feels
get
proud.
exonerated, maybe I'll go on.
She thought he was giving her a compliment, flirting with her a little bit. She has no idea what a monster she is.
Dancing with the Stars, and you can come.
Sure, okay, fine. Okay. And then
Yeah, so she's going to be exonerated by some magic, and then she's going to be on Dancing with the Stars. That's what she said.
Oh,
All right, I guess our time is up.
apparently it's up, yep. Lori Vallow Daybell went back to her cell.
And you remain an evil.
That's all for this edition of Dateline.
Nobody, Lori. You're an absolute nothing burger. Yeah, pretending like she's some kind of Beyonce. Yeah. All right. If anybody knows about this crazy personality, oh, I can't say that, Zelda. All right. I tell Bill all the time he should do his Piddlin' Bill cooking show. I tell him all the time. Is that fake world she created a coping mechanism for her lack of empathy? Well, it's an exterior facade that has built up over the years, starting as a child in her home where there were bad things going on in the home. And so she had to learn to act like she was normal in spite of there being nothing normal in the home. And, one of the things we know about Lori's early history is she had 5 weddings, and her parents, her sisters, didn't go to any of them. Again, something bad was going on in that house, perhaps. Oh, yeah, the banana pudding is delicious, Vicky. Yeah, y'all need to message him and tell him to start his cooking show again. Mother recently got arrested for a DUI in the States. She blamed the Ukrainian cop that arrested her. Like the Ukrainian cop could look at her and say, oh, look. That's so funny. What are your thoughts on baby Lolly that died in 72 or 73 in Loma Linda? My mom worked there, but moved away before all. I just think the early events, the sister that strangely died, the stealing that went on. I think it's all the fact that the mother masticates her food but doesn't swallow it and puts the chewed food on her dinner plate while everybody's sitting at the dinner table. Really, really tough. There was something that really went off the rails in that home. Really went off the rails. Yeah. And then another reason for the murders, there was no money, right? Charles was the primary breadwinner and Lori was just spending it. And so if Lori was going to leave and go to this loser, then she had to get money some way. And so, yeah, it was utilitarian, right? Yes, Sassy T, you heard me correct. That is absolute truth. Lori's mother would chew her food and then put it back on the fork and put the food back on the plate, chewed up, before taking another bite and then going through the motions of chewing that. And that was done with the entire family sitting at the table. There was no shame. It wasn't hidden. It was, everybody accepted it. Yep. The devil from Connecticut. Well, are you talking about that doctor? Dr. Truitt or Truitt? Oh my goodness, Sketty, no. Oh my God. Oh my goodness, it's terrible. So terrible. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to get back in. Okay. All right. So we talked about a bunch tonight about the whole Lori Vallow thing. We are gearing up for the Arizona trial, which is going to be let me put it this way. That judge is going to have to work very hard to maintain control in that courtroom. Mark my words, you got to see her personality today in the interview. What do you think is going to happen? Even the motions that they filed related to Nate Eaton, does she seem like a woman who's going to be able to stay within the rules of the court, or does she seem like a woman who is going to act out and have temper tantrums and be inappropriate? Oh, yeah. Oh, I know what you're talking about now. The kid or the 30-year-old guy from Connecticut that weighed like, what was it, 73 pounds or something? She's going down. She is going down. Of course, Sassy T. I'm glad that you were here and got all caught up on it. It's going to be a huge trial. You're going to see tons of YouTube channels discussing the trial, and this woman is so complicated and such a mess. I'm talking about psychologically, she is a wreck. So yeah, but again, I want to say this again, and I mean this. I do not believe that she is fully delusional. I think a lot of this nonsense is her mask, and she simply cannot allow people to see who she really is. So she chooses to hang on to the lies, and she knows that she looks foolish. I showed you some of the parts where you can see her shame. She knows what she is. She knows the lies, and that we know that she's lying. And she hates you if you ask her about it. She doesn't hate herself that she does it. She definitely hates the situation she's in, but she doesn't have even the slightest little ability to let the mask go and take a deep breath and have some courage to let the real Lori out. She believes that she would be rejected and completely ostracized. I know it's hard to believe because she's already rejected and ostracized based on murdering her children, but this is different. It's at a personal level. So, I mean, look, it's a common tale among narcissistic people. Feature a narcissistic mother who disowns or de-inherits her daughter. All right. And then when the daughter says, I'm done, I can't do this anymore, you're too painful, you're too hurtful, and then withdraws from the relationship, and then 5 weeks later sends a message that says, I don't know what I did to cause this terrible thing. I wish you would explain it to me. That is actually a true story. That is who they are. And if you go on like the Reddit bulletin boards where people like Black Sheep or narcissistic mothers, if you go and just go down the list of topics, there'll be lots of these topics that say, do they really believe their own lies? Do they actually forget? Why do they do terrible things and then pretend like they don't remember? The people that grow up in these families that have these types of parents, it's a common story where they all lead parallel lives. And so, that's something about Colby doing his Scar Wars podcast. He's demonstrating healing. He's demonstrating authenticity and how to set boundaries. And So a lot of people that need to see that because they did in fact grow up with a painful narcissistic parent that did a lot of damage, and it wasn't your fault that your parent treated you that way. They are the ones that were broken and screwed up, So very often the black sheep is actually the strongest one in the family. They're usually the one who bucks the system and says, but why are you doing it this way? This is crazy. And then of course that black sheep is then in deep water because they're upsetting the balance that the narcissist is trying to keep in place. So it's a very sad, sick family structure. The casualties of the narcissist war are real. And I take my hat off to Colby Ryan. He is demonstrating how to heal from that nonsense. All right. So, yes, Zelda, it was so good to see you. Prayers for you. Prayers for Larry. I sure miss seeing you on the channel. I wish we hadn't been doing the interview today. I would have enjoyed, just being goofy and talking and having fun. But maybe tomorrow we'll have a little bit more time and we can kind of catch up. And then blame the black sheep as being the crazy one. Yes, getting known as the black sheep gets called a liar all the time, and they're the only ones in the family telling the truth, right? Yeah. Narcissistic moms, they come straight out of the pits of hell. All right, you guys. Larry went to see his ENT that's been following his case. After she was done with the swallowing studies, she came in with tears in her eyes, so we knew this was serious. Our 52nd anniversary was yesterday. I'm so happy for your 52nd anniversary. Congratulations, and give Larry a big hug and kiss, all right? My husband will pass soon. I'm so sorry, Zelda. So sorry. He'll pass and then he'll be there waiting for you and it's your turn, right? Yeah, if everybody would say prayers for Zelda and Larry, that would be very, very beautiful. Zelda, have you been able to talk to Diane? It might be good for you to try to talk to her during one of our lives when she's here, okay? So sorry. You guys have had a lot of good years together, haven't you? You've had some really great times. Yep. Yeah, her husband passed away not long ago, Zelda. Yeah, 52 years is amazing. Oh, that's so sweet, Sassy. Sassy says, Zelda, I wanted to tell you I enjoyed your stories in chat tonight. Thank you, Vicky. Oh, boss lady, thank you. Aren't you sweet? We got a new member. We don't get very many members, so I'm very excited. Thank you so much. Hey, S-Dubs, how are you doing? It's good to see you. S-Dubs is sending prayers, Zelda. Prayers for Zelda and Larry. It helps when he's so positive. He doesn't feel sorry for himself, and he feels sorry for me because he knows my Ehlers-Danlos is flaring. You guys have really, you've had great years and great experiences, and right now it's tough. I know. You know, Zelda, if you even live within 5 hours, I would drive and come see you guys. But we are literally on the other side of the country from one another. I'm so sorry. But you have my number, okay? You need to call me if you need to talk. I remember your husband explaining the 144,000. What happened to Chad's kids? Well, for a little while, Patricia. Okay, so most of them were married. For a little while, the girl and her husband were living in Chad and Tammy's house. But then, you know, the attorney ended up. Thank you, Sassy T. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. The attorney ended up getting. That's how Chad paid for his defense, was to sign over the land and the house to his attorney. And so then they moved out, and now I don't know where any of them are. I think the one link that you might be able to find some information would be if you go over to the YouTube channel Hidden True Crime, because the lady that runs Hidden True Crime, she is good friends with Chad's sister-in-law, his brother's sister. So you might go over there. She may have some kind of information or videos or something on what became of the kids. Thank you, boss lady. Really, I'm really appreciative of you doing the membership. Thank you. We got on our home for $2 million. We don't owe anything, but what good is money? Where would I go? I love our home. You should buy our purple crazy bus. I'll sell it for cheap. I would love to buy your purple crazy bus. Totally. You guys don't really know what we're talking about, but Zelda and Larry have absolutely the most beautiful yard, 360-degree views. I mean, they have been blessed. All kinds of wildlife, birds, just the garden, the flowers, and I mean, they are in heaven for sure. So it's very beautiful. Let me see. How do I find? Oh, I know how I can find that. If I go to let me go to the community. Let's see. I should be able to get it here. Hold on just a minute, Zelda. And she usually does come into the daytime lives. So I'll keep my eye out, okay? That's not it. Hold on. I should say copy link, but it's not. No, that's not working. Why doesn't that work? That didn't work. Let me try something else. Let's see. Huh, I found it. I found it. All right, Zelda, here is her channel link, and I will send her. Okay, there's her channel link. I'm going to send her an email to ask her if it's okay if I give you her contact information. Or can you text Zelda? If you want to text me, if you'll text me your email address, then I can give it to Diane when I email her to ask, okay? I just don't want to start handing out people's private emails and stuff without permission, right? I have a great big growling stuffed bear and a bottle of barnyard beer that I want to send you. You can pass it on to someone at the trial. That's funny. It's too funny. The bear's 2.5 feet tall. You know what? One day they're gonna arrest old Bear, and me and you are gonna go to the trial together, Zelda. Okay? Even if I have to fly up there and then 2 old ladies driving the purple crazy bus, we're gonna go watch Barry Morphew go down for the big one. All right. I will text you my contact. Yes. No, I'm not going to share with anyone, Zelda. Absolutely not. Not without permission. Okay? Promise. But text it to me and then I'll talk to Diane. Okay, everybody. You guys are awesome. Right, Cericio? We'll have to take lots of video, right? Nobody will believe it. But you watch us. I'm fearless. We'll go. All right. Barry Morphew is a redhead. Is he? I think he's blonde and brown. Oh, we'll bring blonde PT with us. She can go with us. She's crazy too. Wouldn't that be so fun? And Martian Planet Art could go too. We could fill that purple bus up with a bunch of old crazy ladies, Zelda. Have us a big time. Bye, Sassy T. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. All right, everybody. We have been live for 3.5 hours. Everybody needs to get up and walk around and get you a drink of water. Make sure that we don't get any blood clots, okay? We've been sitting way too long. All right. It was a lot of fun. It was good to talk to you guys. Zelda, I'll be in touch with you tomorrow, okay? Everybody, have a good evening. It was nice to talk to you.
Well, I'm sitting in my chair late at night, watching crime unfold under the pale moonlight. From the darkest corner, stories unfold. True crime jewels, she's brash and she is bold. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep into the mysteries that never sleep. From missing kids in Tennessee to angry husbands named Barry. True crime's calling, and we're taking the time. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. This True Crime Jewels got what you need. From missing people to twisting minds, we're unraveling secrets old Barry tried to hide. Every clue, every twist and turn. In the world of crime, there's always more to learn. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep into the mysteries that never sleep. From Christopher's anger to Stephen Fisher's lies. The truth is calling, and justice won't be denied. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. True Crime Jewels on the YouTube streets. Lights are low, suspense is high. We're chasing truth, we spot every lie. Step into the darkness, hold on tight. 2 flashlights out there in the dead of night. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep. Barry Morphew's case is hot. A boy in Tennessee won't be left behind. From the coldest cases to the ones that shine. True crime's calling, and we're taking the time. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. mysteries, true crime jewels, got what you need. We're always watching Barry and waiting for the truth. In the world of crime, we discuss the proof. So hit that play and join the true crime journey with jewels of thought and her gemstone family.